It's time for Inside Security. And this week we're in for something different. While the past episodes has been, well, it's naturally been either blue team or red team, depending on the guest, and then we've had a specific topic or two that we talk about. But this episode is, well, why are we here?
Because threat actors suck.
That is true. Thank you. And that's the topic for this show. So let's just start off by having our guest introduce yourself. So Ben, this is the first time on this show for you. Let's start with welcoming you to the show. It's good to see you.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is, for those unaware, my name is Ben Bidmead, also known as Pry. I'm the creator of Axiom, and I'm also one of the founders of OSEC, the cybersecurity community. And I'm also on Twitter, so if you don't follow me now. This is a self-plug, and I'm going to take advantage of the 20 people.
Do it. If you're not following Pry, you really should.
And there's also there's some amazing people that's come through with me as well in the chat. There's Security, Octavian, Pony Lover, just a few other people I can see. Gene, is that you? Is that you, Gene?
Pry Army in chat.
I think I know. I shouted him out this week. He's an absolute legend. Okay, that's enough of my spotlight.
Right,
You're gonna have a
good
few.
to have you.
You're going to have a few more hours.
Yeah.
Right, so no worries.
David,
Oh
welcome
yeah,
back.
who am I?
You're the first
Thanks.
recurring guest on the show.
I feel honored. I really feel honored.
Awesome.
The first recurring guest. That's cool. Something to brag about when the kids get old and get their own kids. I don't know.
Be on your grave when you die. Be like, yeah, I was on Inside
I
Security
will
twice.
sit here, my grandpa. Let me tell you a story. On the second time I was on the Inside Security show.
It's 18
And it
minutes
could have
in
been that
the
bad.
beginning.
It couldn't have been that bad if you came back, right? Like,
Yeah.
Michael, you must have done a good enough job. You know.
Better than the start of this one. Yeah, fuck.
Either
No, I
I
think
was
it's good.
either I was okay last time, or he just ran out of guests and just made a phone call to one of his friends, like, "Save me,
Yeah,
save
help me out.
Yeah. Well, do you have my account number? Yes, I will wire you some money. No, it's super good. It's super cool to be back. I really like to be back. For like everybody who doesn't know me, I've been working in IT security for about 15 years. I have 25 years of IT experience. I've been a programmer in the packing industry. I've been doing consultancy works here and there, and everything eventually led up to where I am, working with cybersecurity incident response and SOC and so on. So
And
that's
you're also my colleague. We work together on a daily basis.
yes, we do.
That's so cool.
And so do I. I mean, I don't work with you guys necessarily, but we have chats sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes long chats.
sometimes long chats. And speaking of chat, Ben, do you remember what we were chatting about when the idea for this episode came up?
No.
Because you were annoyed that you had to sort of dummy down your attacks to make it
Yes,
look like a
you're
real
right.
threat actor.
Right,
I
right.
have to make it look worse in order, for it to work.
Right. So I think so. One of the things that we're doing is we're doing a purple team. I can't reveal too much of it, but essentially we're emulating some attack paths, right? And I've traditionally always been in pen testing. I've always been offensive, where it's mostly black box. TrueSec is one of the first places where everything went more white box, right? And so I'm used to having to try and hack things, and I'm actually struggling, right? I'm fighting the systems, and whatever I have access to, I can use for the most part, right? Some of the more white box assessments, they give you the creds, they give you the admin, the full domain admin. You can go in and make your own users. You can do the attack path. Well, one of the things that sucks with it so much is that you can't just go into a red team red team isn't just about hacking. It's about emulating a threat actor, right? We're trying to test the efficiency of blue team, right? So if I go in there with a super advanced ODay and I pull out some custom, Go shell and, all of this obfuscated stuff that's all custom, that's a really bad red team, depending on who you're emulating, right? I mean, if we're emulating a general threat actor following the attack, the MITRE attack framework, I don't want to do that. I want to emulate and use real threat actor things. The majority of lower level threat actors are going to do. We're going to get to that higher level of skill for adversaries eventually, but things like PowerShell droppers, right? JavaScript entry points, lateral movement, WMI, SMB exec, common stuff that you would expect to see in the EDR is stuff we've got to test. So I think the thing that I really realize is that actually most threat actors suck. And when I say most threat actors, I'm talking about most of the ones that we hear about in the news, right? You hear about places getting popped. You hear about, oh, this really advanced attack happened. When actually, most of the time that these companies are getting ransomed, one, the threat actor, I mean, we can guess, I'm guessing, right? I don't know every threat actor personally, so I can't tell you for sure. But, you know, a lot of it is brute force through IDP. It's dumped creds on the dark web. It's, you know, a phishing email that was dragnet sent to everybody. And actually, a lot of the entry points are really easy because threat actors, for the most part, suck, and they don't have to, right? Yeah, exactly. RDP exposed on open internet. You know, password as administrator and password. It's a super common threat vector, and you know the way that it's actually working, the criminal process actually working is, you know, for a lot of the ransom that happens, people just buying credentials and buying access on the dark web for $50, and they're just sat with their, you know, their guide. Oh, click here, install ransomware. You know, click this, use this GUI tool, right? And the reason why I think a lot of threat actors suck is because they can. Everything's hilariously insecure, and I think our problem in this industry, as far as breaches go, is not. I mean, this is the T-shirt, right? Prevent breaches. That's the whole thing of TrueSec, and we're not sponsored by TrueSec this particular episode, and we are unaffiliated as far as this podcast goes. But we do work at TrueSec, all of us. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just that security is worse, and the bar is so low that like they don't even have to be advanced. And I think that was the idea for the show, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we're sort of talking about like why should you go more advanced if it's, you know, if it's enough with just doing basic shit. Like there's no need to be super advanced.
Right.
But then we've in incident response cases and in the SOC we've seen attacks and we've seen, you know, activities that threat actors do, and it just shows that most of them are not sophisticated. Like most of them are not elite nation states. It's just, you know, we see typos, we see people doing like random, just normal lazy stuff.
When talking about lazy stuff, we have actually seen a threat actor inside an environment actually Googling for what the commands they should be run, what they look like, and what the parameters added to the command should be, because it wasn't working the first time they ran it. And then you can see they try to run it again and they misspell it, and so it's extremely manual, and the level is so low that you can crawl over it without touching it. So
yeah, I think chat agrees with us. Kids can pull off these hacks and clearly well prepped. Yeah.
Yeah,
could have done better with the prep work, I suppose.
Now, a couple of colleagues of to us, they actually say that hacking is basically copy and pasting from Notepad. And if you haven't prepared your Notepad, seriously, it is.
It's true.
And if you haven't prepared that, you're not prepared, or you're not skilled enough to be where you are, or you shouldn't be doing what you should do. I mean, you should do it in a test environment. You shouldn't be screwing up. You should never screw up someone else's production system, for sure. Let's not say that's a legit thing, but what we can see is they haven't prepared. And that can sometimes be hilarious. Yes.
I just love the fact that they actually got some initial foothold on a client, run stuff, it fails, and then they Google stuff from that foothold, not from their own boxes. Just Google from inside of the company.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's quick.
This is a similar story, actually. Oh, sorry, David, am I cutting you off?
No, it's a Juiced 80 says that it could be worse. They didn't Bing it, and that's, well, I'm not. Yeah, it's a good comment.
I
like it.
I had a friend telling me about how he had his RDP exposed to the internet. This was like 2012, I think, and he had a guest account enabled on it, right? And he didn't realize he had a guest account enabled. And once he found this guy logging on to this guest account, and he looked through the logs, and this guy had been using it as his personal PC for the past like year. There was like all his logins, like there was like work, like I'm assuming like schoolwork, like I don't know, like some guy on the internet had scanned RDP, just logged in and been like, free RDP, you know? And he didn't realize. And why would you? Right? And this is the thing, like I think a threat is you can be so blatant. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, I've been in so many environments that you think this should really work, you know, on paper. Controls are there, you know, they have EDR, right? They have antivirus, and it's terrible, right? And it's not their fault necessarily. They've just bought the thing, they're not educated enough, you know, or been informed enough that they've just bought the software that they've been sold, tested it, and that's why we're there to validate it, right? And it's
True.
it's scary. Before I was in the industry, I had no idea how insecure everything was, but they're not joking. It really is. And you might have a few silos who are very secure, but it only takes one vendor that's VPN'd in to or connected to your network to be compromised by some really terribly exposed shadow IT or something that missed asset management. And anyone could be hacked, really.
Absolutely.
And you've both seen that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have. So because David and I work in a SOC, obviously, with EDRs, like, how annoying is it for you as a red teamer to work with an EDR installed on your like boxes?
So I've not done my proper red teaming has started at TrueSec, right? But prior to TrueSec, I did mostly black box pen testing, and there were a good amount of environments that had EDR, but they weren't like TrueSec stock, right? TrueSec stock is like very, it's high quality. You're watching it all the time. The socks that I was playing with were some, I don't know, it was outsourced, right? There was no detections, no tuning, there was no red teaming. They just deployed an agent that they'd been sold, and that was the extent of their installation. My experience with a lot of EDRs, I don't think we can say vendor names. I won't say vendor names. But the majority of the publicly available, the publicly used EDRs generally actually make it worse, in my experience. I see things where they either don't detect or they actually disable parts of Windows Defender. The biggest problems I've had is Windows Defender. Like Windows Defender Pro, if you just install that and have that up to date with no exclusions or anything, just stock, like it's Windows 10 2019, and Windows Server 2019, those are like the hardest ones to get through, generally speaking, unless you get like a specific bypass. But EDR, for the most part, it's terrible. In fact, it can make it worse, I think. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else had that experience, but from my perspective, that's what I've seen.
Well,
so do you think it's worse in terms of like detection capabilities, or that it's some form of false security, basically?
So I think if the EDRs were properly tuned, they would be a million times better than the detection capabilities of Defender. Or Defender Fairpoint is ATP is an EDR, right?
Yeah.
But I think what I see a lot is, like you said, a false sense of security. But I also see dropped-in agents actually disable existing security controls in order to replace it with their own static signature detection. That's worse than Defender. I think even if those SOCs would, or maybe they're not even watched, right? They're enabled and they get alerted on, and maybe there's no one there to watch it, or they respond 6 hours later, or they don't even, they're not blocking. It's only detection, right? And it's just misconfiguration. Obviously, my experience with EDRs is probably limited from a red team perspective. A lot of my targets have not been very hardened. So everyone's had different experiences, but that's just what I've seen with these SOCs. I think they're probably not the mainstream products either. A lot of like the, antivirus pluses, I think, as I call it.
Well, I guess the worst, you can take an EDR that doesn't perform very well, and if you actually are sitting in front of it and monitoring it 24/7, it will do a better job than the best one unmonitored, as you said.
Right.
No one is looking at it, and we've seen that. We've seen companies checking in at Friday 2:00 and say, "Oh, everything looks fine in the EDR dashboard. See you have a nice weekend, guys and girls. Bye bye." And off they go, and they will be hacked. So it's high and low all the time.
Yeah, we got that exactly in chat from Accenter. It says when it's weekend, so you'll check the alert on Monday morning.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said.
That's when you realize you can't log on because there's ransomware on all the machines. Yeah.
And we've seen attacks go, as we mentioned before, like some attacks can be really, really quick.
Oh, yes.
Don't remember the time frame, David. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but from like the phishing email landing in inbox to domain admin in like under an hour or something.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's less than that, but let's say an hour.
Yeah, let's be nice and say an hour.
Yeah.
Is that automated, or is that automation, or is that something that's just really fast?
No, that's made by the people we're not talking about today, because those threat actors doesn't suck. They know what they're doing.
Oh, okay, for sure. Right.
State sponsored, and so on. So yeah, let's say less than an hour without bragging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gene Core in chat says, well, my record was 6 minutes. Yeah, I've heard
That's
something,
good.
something similar from our side. Yeah,
Yes.
that's quick. I mean,
Maybe it was Gene.
yeah, maybe it is. um, but yeah, that's a good ones. Like that's not the ones we're talking about today. We've seen
Right.
some other like quite interesting stuff. Like maybe it's not, it doesn't really suck perhaps, but we've seen incidents where the threat actor is trying to enumerate like users and everything, and try to escalate the privileges, and they didn't really even realize that they were domain admins to start with.
Yep.
No.
Like you were already DA, like you can just go on.
You can just run whatever you like.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's indicative of like the playbook culture, right? Which is like, they've got a lined out call center somewhere, right, in the middle of nowhere, and there's all these people together, and they say, "We're going to teach you to be a ransomware operator." They probably have a different job title, probably IT technician, right?
Yeah.
And then they sit through and they show them the book, right? Oh, this is what you do. You click this, you click this. Here's the software, right? Here's a lab environment, right? And it's probably, I mean, the thing is, if you do that and you have like almost like a cold calling list where you have your lead list of 150 leads to call in a day, here's 150 boxes to ransom. Even if 70% of them don't even let work or don't even get you there, and you just end up ransoming it at the end, ransoming a single box versus the whole domain. I mean, that might well get you money. I mean, that's the goal of this, right? Is to make money for these bad actors for the most part, and you just get lucky on, like the pipeline. I mean, not necessarily the actual pipeline, but there's plenty of cases of ransomware, just some actors just installed it and left and not realize that they brought down like a huge hospital or a school or a financial system, because it's just, who cares? It's just ransom this box and see what happens.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about the pipeline. I mean, it was the company themselves that turned it off, because they had some issues with the financing system, so they were unsure who to invoice.
Apparently.
So yeah, apparently, yes.
So what do you think about the dark side? Is it dark side? What do you think? Do you think that they actually, do you think they got hacked or something, and they lost access to everything? Do you think they actually got hacked, or they just made it up?
Exit scam.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the heat got to them. They're like, "Oh shit, this is
Yeah.
bigger than we sort of anticipated. We'll just
Too much heat.
we'll do an extra scan. We'll come back, rebranded, renamed, just same toolbox and just another name, I'd say, and not going after pipelines again."
Well, do you think they even realized it was a pipeline?
See, this is where most threat
doubt
actors suck.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they knew where they were.
Right.
I don't think so. I don't think they did their due diligence, actually.
Yeah, they're like,
we've
boxes, ransom, money, go.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we
It
can
just
run
got out of
commands.
hand. It just got too hot. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is bigger than we thought. Oh shit.
Or like, this is
Run
too
away.
easy, and boom, and like, whoops.
I think that's what it is. I think there's an illusion that people think that just because it's a big company, or because it's a well-known name, or because it's an important thing, it must be secure. And people, the general public, just trust that things are being secured properly, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's no way of really keeping people accountable, to be honest with you. I mean, especially, CISOs, of course, face lots of difficulties in business. Lots of difficulties trying to get funding, difficulties getting buy-in from their, other C-levels. It's extremely common. Even security people aren't even enabled to do their own jobs, right? They're not given priority and so on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of luxuries at TrueSec, right? But being inside the company as a decision maker in a CISO role is incredibly difficult. So it's almost like the problems are more than just our technical ability. It's they're political, they're human problems, they're awareness problems, right? Like the reason why devices are getting hacked is because of people, not necessarily because of lack of knowledge or because there's some unknown ODE that's flying around the internet that we don't know about. That's not how the majority of these hacks are happening. They're opportunistic, quick, in and out, like potentially the pipeline, right? Is that what you see, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most common things, as we've said it before, it's been in the chat. It's system. Either it's a phishing email, as you said, or it could be a system exposed to the internet that hasn't been patched for like 6 or 9 months or even longer. And there is a known exploit, and there's like a lot of the advisory saying you should patch this and so on, but the company still haven't done so, leaving the system exposed to the hackers to do whatever they like, and they, as we say, they don't have to be skilled to get to those systems. You just download whatever proof of concept of GitHub and get it running, and you just hit them and you're in. So yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
We've seen it so many times now, so it's quite boring. Yeah, let's let's hope the next incident that we get to work on as incident responder isn't a year-old system being hacked and then CryptoLocker, because I've seen that too many times now. It's boring.
Yeah.
Hit me with something new.
I was just gonna add when you were finished, and then the where am I not banned in chat said, what if the company doesn't have a patch management? And I was just about to say that. It's because patch management is like, it sounds so, it's like not sexy. It's like one of the most boring things to do. Like patch management is, no, just kill me, please. But it's so important. Like if you keep your stuff unpatched, you're gonna get hit. And it without a proper patch management, it's really hard to keep track of your, if you're like a big environment, it's really hard to keep track of everything. Like you have no idea. Even at a previous employer, we had a patch management, and then we got, this server or this service needs to be patched, and then you contact that system owner or sysadmin, like, hey, you need to patch your system because you're running Drupal, so you need to patch this, and they come back and like, all right, can you do it? I'm like, no, that just it's not up to me. I'm telling you to do it. I'm like, okay, so what's Drupal? Like, how do I run it? I'm like, you're not supposed. You're gonna update it, just patch it. Okay, how then? I'm like, so that's the hard part about patching.
With awareness, right, as well. Like, the things that we need to be doing that aren't be doing, it's just like eating your vegetables. It's like working out, right? It's like there's no magic, there's no secret. It's just eat well, exercise often, and get your volume in, and consume the right amount of protein and carbohydrate, right? Your macros. It's like that with security.
And brush your teeth before you go to bed.
Right. Yeah. It's hygiene, right? It's boring.
Yeah.
But like,
it is.
We've got all these people walking around with rotten teeth, and we're like, just brush your teeth, and they're like, no, I'd rather use this breast mint that this vendor sold me. Right? It's the same thing. It's like breath mints. We're selling people breath mints, not toothpaste. Yeah. When really, if they just brush their teeth every day, then it wouldn't be a problem. Right? Just, I mean, asset management. It's hilarious how many companies don't have asset management.
Oh yeah.
How many devices do you have? I don't know, like 300. You get in there, you run our maps, like 900 devices. Hey, what's this? Oh, that's something some vendor installed. So why has it got a full RCE on it?
You wanted me to count the switches as well? Yes.
Yes.
It's a device, isn't it?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. About the comment from Juiced80. So our 10+ year uptime on the Linux server machine is bad. Well, if you have memory resident stuff, it is bad. If you reboot the machine, that will actually go away, and if you don't have stuff on the disk that will load every time you reboot the machine, you're fine. So yeah, I think you should restart your service a little now and then to get that shit out of the system. So,
but then you mess up the 10-year uptime.
Yeah, take a fucking screenshot before you reboot them.
Right. Yeah, but I think there's a balance there, right? I mean, I think it depends if you can do updates. You can do updates without rebooting, right? You can do grafting, right? And there are ways that you can maintain that uptime. But
the thing with the 10-year uptime is, will it reboot if you actually do it? If it loses power, if the UPS breaks down, will it actually come back? Are you sure it will? But
that's the same. That's the same.
This is the hygiene as well, because not should you only have the patch routine and that patch management. You should also have the disaster recovery. You need to have your disaster recovery up and running as well. You need to know how to actually get your frigging systems back to 100% production again. Having your server running for 10 years, brilliantly done. If it still works, that's good. Nice, cool. Take a screenshot. I'm not sure if it's. I don't get it with the uptime. It's like this. Okay. But I mean, if it breaks down, if whatever part in that server breaks down, will it actually come back again if you replace that?
Well, you want to reboot because you don't want to know. Ignorance is
ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah. So it's
that's the other thing. Disaster recovery. right? I mean, how many people have fully wiped their environment and fully restored? How do you even know your backups work?
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
work in the environment? I mean, you can restore to a test and try, but until it actually the main event, and you have a ransom situation, and how do you even know if your DL works, right? Or
Yeah. I think this talk is steering away from the threat actors, and we're now just bashing the companies not doing what they should do. In all fairness, I think we're still fair saying it, but we've seen it so many times again that we have backups of the system. Do they work? Oh, we don't know. Okay, have you tested them? No. Okay, let's test them. Oh, they didn't work. Really? So, what do you suggest we do now? Well, your backup's gone because you haven't tested it. I don't know.
well,
Install it from scratch.
right. I want to make a point on that as well, because I mean, this isn't necessarily bashing the companies, right? But it's there's the other problem we have is as consultants, it's very easy to sit in an ivory tower, and be like, oh well, you should have backups and you should do patch management, you idiots. Run your patches, right?
Yeah.
But like, if you've actually ever sat in
Test
a
your
company,
backups. Yeah.
right? Or yeah, exactly, or seen how companies are. Like, I pity anybody in the trenches. Not pity, I know, I support you, right? If you're in the trenches, like, you're one of the hardest jobs ever, and probably one of the most thankless jobs, depending on the business, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
And it's people like, that sit in the trenches that are nagging to their bosses, saying, we need this EDR, or we need to do vol management, even though it's sexy, or, pulling their CISO away from buying the new FortiGate. And make them actually, invest their money in something that they don't already have, right? In good controls that work. So I don't know where this was going, but
No, but I think that the stuff that we were talking about now, that's what makes it easy. That's what makes a crappy threat actor actually succeed.
Right.
So that's the reason. But then it's hard. I mean, it's if you're a young IT guy and you're a bit tech savvy, it's like you get one path to the left, which is like pen testing, and then the right is disaster recovery. Like, you're not gonna go to disaster recovery because it's cool and sexy. You're gonna go pen testing
exactly,
and like bug
right?
bounties, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna work with patch management when I get old. No, just no one said that ever.
I like the next comment from Accentus as well. The quote is, "It just sounds like companies who think they are secure now that they're ISO 27K certified." Yes.
Work done. We're safe.
I've seen that as well. Companies are going through with flying colors on PCI DSS certifications. Everything is nice and dandy. They have all the logs they need. They have all the procedures in place. And then they get hacked. And how can we be hacked? We are PCI. And I've actually, back up a few years, there was a company who was actually taking their auditor to court because they were hacked. Because, well, you said we were secure. That's not how it works, but okay. Let's back up. I mean, it's so stupid. If an auditor comes to you and says that, okay, everything looks nice and dandy, here's your certification, it doesn't mean you're secure. It means you passed the certification. It's like, it's just like a driver's test. If you're sitting next to the auditor and when you're taking your driver's license and you drive carefully and slowly and do everything right, and he says, "Good job, David," and heads out of the car. When he closes the door and I slam the accelerator, I'm going to crash. I'm going to crash because driving safely and being a safe company with PCI DSS or the ISO 27K certifications, it means that you still every day need to eat shit and breathe this. You cannot take a shortcut. Not once can you take a shortcut. And companies forget that. And that's why it makes it so easy for threat actors to attack them. And that's why the threat actors suck, because they don't have to be good. So we need to up the bar. We need to take it up a notch. We need to, and as consultants, every company that we talking with, they're actually listening to us. And I mean, we just need to get it in there and help them to say, you need to be up here because the attacks are down here right now, but you need to be here. So yeah.
without, I mean, that's the Scandinavian way, right? It's about being honest,
without calling them idiots.
Right, which is I think the biggest thing you can do there is empathy, right? Just have empathy for the people that are in the company and have empathy for the people in the trenches. And like when I'm talking to someone at a company, I want to speak I mean, you have that, you might have two people in the meet. You might have like the big boss, right, or the CISO, or who's looking at the guy in the trench, like, why is this so bad, right? And
Yep.
sometimes it's either because they don't know any better, right? It's not their fault, or maybe it's because they're overworked, not given enough time or space or support and security, or there's a culture in the company of blame, where no one wants to do anything new, and if you turn off the computer for doing some patches that you're supposed to do, you get shouted at. Why did you break that? It was working just fine.
We had it running for 10 years. Now you screwed up the uptime.
Yeah. Exactly. And there are cultures like that. And I think
people will laugh at me on Reddit. What should I say now?
Right. And I think we need to change the cultures. And I think as consultants, we can help that. Right. I mean, you talk to people in the trenches and you talk to them, they say, oh, I've been trying to get funding for this. Can you just like put something in the report to help us get this one thing that we need? And the thing they want is tenable.
Yeah.
Or it's an EDR provider. I want to be able to reboot my server every 7 days without having to ask for permission. Basic things. So what do you guys think the way forward? Like, how do you think we can help? I mean, one is consultants, and one is, and so for two things, consultants who are in our nice, we can sit on our tower and look down at the people who actually have to do the work in companies, and then people in the trenches. What would you say that your advice would be to help those people?
Well, my advice is actually to people like us, to the cybersecurity or IT security consultants, and to the new people, the new wave of people coming up and wanting to be IT security consultants. One of the most important things is to listen, and I really mean it. Listen to the customer and understand their endeavors and their production systems. Can they actually patch at any time of the day, any day of the year? Can they actually do that? Understand the business, and make sure that they hear you when you speak back. But talk back to them in a way that you show that you've listened to them and that you heard what they said. So that's basically my advice to IT security consultants. My advice to the companies, it's super hard. I mean, because they are listening to us and say, yes, we really want to spend money on that. Our C-level says we need to save money on this. And we can just say, well, do you know what a ransomware costs? What a ransomware attack costs? Can you live without your production system for 3 weeks? You're not going to be back in 3 days. It's going to take 2-3 weeks before you're back in production. You need to use pen and paper until we're there. How much does that cost compared to the system? It's slightly an insurance because it doesn't really cover if shit happens, but it makes it harder for the attacker. It's like putting a sticker on your house saying, I have a burglary alarm. Don't come here. Go away. I mean, it's a bluff. They need to call it, but in a way, putting up more systems. Because as you said, an advanced attacker, they will get in no matter what, because they have the resources, they have the time. They are probably nation states, and so on. They will get in. And you just need to make it as expensive enough for them to get in, so they will actually look the other way and go for another company. That's basically what you need to do. You need to put down, I think it's a tenth. I think it's 10 times. You need to put in 10 times as much IT security systems as it would cost to attack them, basically.
So how much does it cost to attack? Okay, so this conversation could
depends on the attack.
David said it would cost $200,000 to attack me, but it didn't.
Oh, don't quote me on it, but you just need to raise the bar to make it more expensive for them to attack you, so they actually will look the other way and go for another company. That's what you need to do. If your neighbor is putting up walls, you need to put up higher walls. That's how this works. When you're with friends and you're chased by a crocodile, make sure you're not the slowest one. That's how you survive.
Right.
Yeah. So my advice would be on the company side. So don't do stuff just for compliance reasons. Actually, make sure you do it to make it safe. Like, don't order pen test just to be compliant. Order pen test to find vulnerabilities. Like that's so important in anything you do. Just don't do it to be compliant. Do it to be safe. And then, I mean, the boring stuff. Have a proper patch management and have a vulnerability management. Like that's gonna get you so far. And
Really?
then just don't click on bad stuff. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. About the pen test and ordering them to be compliant, I've seen that. I've seen companies ordering pen tests, and then they
Oh,
got
fine.
the
I've been on both
seriously
ends.
that then they got the report, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
then they open a drawer and put it in the drawer and close the drawer. Problem's gone.
Yeah, or even as a pen tester,
Or
like when you get a question from the customer, like, so in the scoping meeting, you're like, so after we do this, do we get the green check mark as a, I've done the pen test? Like, that's not what this is about. It's about to find bad stuff. It's not about just finishing it. But
It's
then
about
you've also
patching.
seen that, right?
well, I've also seen companies where the CISO hires 2 pen test companies. They hire one, get the checkbox, some intentionally bad firm that they know is going to give them a clean bill of health. And then another firm that is not official, that's, general security consultancy, and that's their real pen test.
Oh, okay.
And so he can work on his findings without the corporate the corporate bullshit, really. And that's one strategy I've witnessed in my life. But yeah, tons of people do it for compliance. I mean, especially when you come back the next year and it's still broken. I mean, this is not things that's new, but I mean, whenever I see a new breach in the news, I never am surprised. I'm never surprised. I'm like, this company got hacked. Shocking, right? Like,
Yeah.
like, and for me, like, it's almost, I like the act of hacking. I'm not a criminal. I don't think I would ever become a criminal. But I think one of the most fun things to do as a criminal would be to mass hack everything. And I look at it and I'm like, if I was a bad guy, like we could make a lot of money. It'd be really easy. And like if that bar is for me, I mean, how many other people out there are way smarter than me with way bigger ambition and way more balls, right? And that's worrying. That scares me, right? I mean, Eternal Blue was one of the few things that really rocked the world, and we were like, wow, why is this breaking everything? But it's just because it was a really prolific wide worm. I mean, you just need one more like that. I mean, Bluekey was supposed to be like that. Anything else? The Exchange RCE? Any thoughts on that, or in the world exploitation of that?
Yeah, that was nasty as well. I mean,
It was.
Yeah, so zero days is another issue, right? I mean, of course, old stuff like not patch stuff, that's really bad. But then you get the 0 day with RCE on it, on Exchange, for example. Like you're screwed. I mean, there's not much you can do. An EDR would actually stop most of that. Most of them, I think. You disagree?
Backtrack.
You don't have to agree with me.
It is. Let's play a nice. Let's play this game. Let's play it as a game. You can be good cop and I can be bad cop.
Do it.
No. With the Exchange thing, I mean, the Exchange server is made for communicating with the internet, and if you have a web shell and you see traffic back and forth from the Exchange server, is it bad? You don't know unless you actually investigate the other end. The EDR, well, what you can do with the EDR is that you can go on file hash, you can go on known file names, which are super easy to change. So I think it's a bit tricky to find them. I think the EDR actually does improve. You should most definitely have one. But I don't think it's like super easy to find them. And if you have an EDR and the EDR sends an alert and you're investigating it and you see that you actually have active communication with a Russian server, which you usually don't. And if let's say if your security providing partner phones you up telling you this, you shouldn't reply, nah, doesn't matter. You should do stuff about it. Let's leave it at that.
Theoretically, right?
I love that voice, by the way, whatever that was.
I have no idea. I do so many voices.
It's all in your head.
It is. My kids love me when I read the cartoons for them, because I have a different voice for every character in the series.
What does a threat? Are you a threat active voice? No, I won't put you on the spot.
Yeah, a threat active voice. I want this, David. I want it to be a common thing.
Threat active voice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to offend people now. I can't do it. Yeah.
Some preparation maybe next time.
That
Yeah.
5-second preparation. I don't know.
We'll take a question from chat in the
No.
meantime. while you prepare your threat active voice.
Fantastic question,
Right,
by the way.
So it's Accenture again. It says, well, if you're in a company with a limited security budget, would you be better off investing in decent and working patch management, etc., compared to a red team assessment and training a blue team?
My opinion is totally, like, 100%. But it depends what... David, have you gone quiet?
I'm working on my threat active voice.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's
Right,
why,
awesome.
that's why
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
miming.
Let him work, man. Let him work.
Well, I think I'm done. Anywho, would it be better off investing in a decent working patch management, etc., compared to a red team assessment or training blue team? You should definitely train your red team, do the red team, and you should train the blue team, and you should also have working patch management. You cannot choose either one of them because I will get you.
That's perfect. I love it. That's the official Inside Security threat active voice.
Is that going to make a cameo in your kid's story time? You know.
I'm not sure. Maybe. One of the best things is that when I was working in Hong Kong, I would imitate Indian people because they had quite a feud because Indian people traveled to Hong Kong and took the Hong Kong people's work they thought in IT and so on. So every time I got there, I could just imitate Indian people, and my Hong Kong colleagues were just rolling around on the floor, cracking and laughing, and it was an easy win. And then sometimes I try to imitate them as well to make it more of a dialogue between the Indian guy and the Hong Kong guy. But I should have my stand-up routine in Hong Kong when this pandemic is over.
I think we should consult someone in HR.
Yeah, David said
yeah,
the
maybe.
chat tomorrow. Like,
I mean, the topic is offensive as it is, so let's not offend more people.
So,
Ben, did you have an opinion on that? Which is the best?
Yeah, well, I think it's a step-by-step thing. So I think first step, I think it also depends on who's there, and what your goals are and what the culture is. If you're in a company where it's quite common, right, where you have a CISO who's fairly open-minded and he's happy to try, and then you have one technical person who's fairly low level, isn't very well known in the company, but really knows their stuff. And it's, they talk to them, they talk to the CISO, and the CISO listens to this individual who's probably very technical, maybe not very popular, maybe doesn't know a lot of people. This is a stereotype, but it's one I've seen before, right? If you're smart enough to know how internal and external networks work, you have to use Mmap. Totally. I mean, first thing I would do if you wanted to make yourself more secure is run Nmap and run Nessus. Figure out what you've got internally and externally. Do you have admin panels exposed on the internet? Do you have RDP exposed on the internet? What is your VPN appliance? Are you using a Pulse Secure, a Pulse VPN provider? Are you using FortiGate? Is it up to date? Basic things like that, like what's exposed to the public. So I think if you're in that situation where you can actually make a difference, patch management and asset management, absolutely. I would invest in that first. However, I have seen companies where they don't have patch management, they don't have asset management, but they need a pen test for compliance reasons. And during that pen test, you can influence the CISO or influence the culture, right? So if you have a in the trenches person saying, we need to do this, we need to do that, we're going to get hacked. And they go, no, we won't get hacked. Sometimes you need a red team or you need a pen tester to come in and just blow the doors off in a couple of days and say, this is terrible. Yeah. And sometimes they listen to the third party. It's like, because if you've never had a pen test before, I would probably get like a 1 week internal pen test and just see what comes out the tree when you shake it. Because I think that would be, that might be more helpful. So I think it depends on the culture of the company. I think generally speaking, patch management and just general security hygiene, update your shit, know what you have and scan it regularly. Like you're pretty much there. And then all you've got left, I guess, is like EDR on the endpoints, mail filtering, little things to make things a little bit nicer and more friendly, training, phishing tests and training. I think visibility is the name of the game versus what fancy toys you have. I mean, one of the things I see the most is people spending $4,000 on a FortiGate IDS or on a, one of these out-the-box IDS packages on the edge, and they just deploy it. and they think it's going to stop their malware, because these companies, they say this has stopped 99.9% of attacks of the attacks they tested in the lab, which were picked out for this intentionally, right? I mean, you actually try and run actual C2 traffic, like interpreted HTTPS, doesn't pick it up. So I think we need to get into the mindset of visibility, and it's okay if you're bad. It's okay if the network is really bad, as long as you know it, because the worst thing is ignorance of, oh, there's nothing wrong. So I think it depends on the culture. Really, that would be my answer. That's satisfactory chat.
we got a comment in chat that sort of that's in line with what you said. It's air quotes around, we don't need patch management. We have 6 IDSs running round robin each other.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's that's not uncommon. I mean, that's I've seen that in multiple places.
I think it's I think part of the fault or the blame is on the sales, because there are laws in countries that stop places from selling misleading things, or there's a trade commission, right? If you sell something that's very obviously not true, and can be validated as not true, you're not allowed to say it in advertising, depending on the country. I don't know how it is in Sweden, but there are certain, like even gambling, right? There are things, or drink responsibly, right? There are some level of thing. We're not going to say this alcohol makes you fly. Red Bull can say it, but that's another thing, right? People know it's fake. So I think security is the same problem. There's a lot of there was a guy on LinkedIn the other day selling TLS certs with extended validation, saying it stops ransomware, right?
What?
And that's totally and it's totally legal. And people spend £1,200 or $1,200 on a certificate, thinking that they're safe now. And I think sales is also part of the problem. I don't. My headphones are dying, so if I cut out, let me know. But I think with a lot of vendors are selling snake oil, and they are treated as educators. The Gartner Magic Quadrant is one of the biggest scams I think I've ever seen. Right? It's, oh, look, this is how well this product does compared to the other one. When actually, if we actually look in the real world, this wouldn't do anything in this particular case, right? An IDS does not stop lateral movement inside your network.
No, it just detects it. But
even if it does detect it, right?
Even if it does detect it. The thing is, speaking about LinkedIn, I just had to look at my phone because I took a screenshot of a commercial I saw there. It's a company. I'm not going to name it because
please name it.
No, this is not a name and shame. It says automated solutions for PCI DSS compliance, and it's so stupid. It's like I can't even find a good analogy for it because that's not how it works. People are going to click the link, and people are going to contact that company and probably give them money, and they're not going to be either PCI DSS compliant and they're not going to be secure, which is a shame because it just made me cringe when I saw it. I took a screenshot and sent it to a good friend in the US, and I said, that's basically what I wrote, and he wrote something similar back to me. So it's always nice.
Was that a word in Swedish? Was that a Swedish word, or was that like?
No, it was just when you're.
They sound similar sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
True.
That's how it could be. Yep.
We got Darudi in chat saying our sim is a Gartner leader. It must be good.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
It's probably not crap, at least if it's in up there in the top right, but it's
in the
whatever.
Okay.
It might not be perfect still.
I think Darudi. Hi Darudi. I've seen your name before.
He's
Darudi. Yeah, but I mean he's a regular, and I think he was here when you and I had our first talk, Michael. And I think he heard me ranting about sims. So this is just a button he pushed. Good press.
He's also a subscriber, so be nice, David.
We're
nice to subscribers. We're nasty to non-subs. Just so you know.
This is nothing against Darudi. This is against sim companies, sim vendors. Let's not go. You and I went down that rabbit hole in another talk we had for an hour.
For like 2.5 hours. Yeah, that talk. Yeah, I guess.
We missed a question. One thing. Question from the chat. How often do you see IoT devices in the scenario of unpatched devices being the entry point. I think that was the question.
Yeah, I think that's hard because a lot of IT
Yep.
stuff won't get patched, right?
Yep, that's basically
IoT.
the IoT. Yeah. What you should do with your IoT stuff is that you should make sure that the device is connecting to the IoT or the gateway to them is secure. So if you have a couple of workstations that are connected or can communicate with the IoT device for whatever printing or conveyor belts or photo sensors or whatever it is in your production environment, you should keep those workstations extra secure. You should monitor them extra carefully, and you should definitely patch them as soon as you can. You probably should have a replace machine so you can just switch to second machine and patch the first one, get it up and running and move back and then patch the second one so you won't lose production time. But I mean, there are so many things you can do. But yes, IoT devices, if we've seen it, we have seen something similar. Very old stuff not
It's
being
not too
patched
common
because
though,
no,
Okay,
no.
I've got
On
two
the
tangents.
on the scale of how common it is, it's super rare.
Yeah. Was that Ben?
So to that point, do you also I've got two tangents as well, but you brought up David in my head, so we'll get to that. But I also see a lot of hype around IoT. I mean, IoT is incredibly insecure, right? I mean, I think with IoT, a lot of people find ODay is extremely easy, right? I mean, you connect to it with the JTAG, you log into it, you get a root shell in the box, dump the firmware. I mean, you download the firmware from the website, right? You can find hard-coded root passwords, right? You can find all sorts of. I mean, even the vendor stopped selling them, or they OEM the device and they don't support it anymore, and they just go out of business, and it's still in there. Like they don't even call the number, and it's dead, right?
Yeah.
Now that's extremely a thing I've seen, but I also don't necessarily. I mean, my experience, I don't see a ton of IoT devices fully just on the internet, right? Except this is the two things I think maybe two new threat avenues, if that's even a phrase, which is IPv6. What's your opinion on that as a defender? And UPnP. We saw a little while ago HackerGiraffe hacking Chromecasts by playing their video to UPnP connected Chromecasts that were accessible on the router, just pushed through, just patched through on the internet because of by the default router. I think it was in Taiwan and a few places in Asia. I think around the world there were Chromecast playing HackerGiraffe's video and printers as well, printing things out.
But he was actually pointing to a PewDiePie video because he wanted the PewDiePie video to have the most number of plays, and they were competing against some Indian TV show company.
Oh yes, some Bollywood advert trailer or something. Yeah.
I remember the story.
Yeah.
They were competing. On IPv6, I don't think it will change that much because we already have a lot of IPv4 addresses onto the internet that we're trying to protect.
Right.
The IPv6, you will get more. You will get more devices up. Yeah, it could be a problem if my refrigerator for some reason should have an IPv6 address and directly connected to the internet. You could probably see a directory traversal on my washing machine. I don't know, because it will never get patched. Maybe IPv6 is a bigger problem than I first thought when I was going. Yeah.
One of the things about IPv6, I think, is it's just so big, and also lots of people are ignoring it. I'm probably unpopular, and some IPv6 people will hate me. But I think actually the idea that we had 20 years ago that we can put every device on the internet, that was the original idea, and so we need all these IP addresses. Actually, the IPv4 way of NATing everything doesn't actually so bad, right?
No.
I mean,
exactly.
What do you think? You think that we should just stick with NAT and just get rid of IPv6 because it's actually going to be worse? I guess the only thing that you have with IPv6 is so big, you have to have a lot of balls to go after it because you're going to just be waiting forever for it to scan.
Well, can't you just axiom it?
I mean, could. I mean, I was talking to Octavian. I don't know if he's still listening. I hope he is. We were talking about using that to scan, but even then, it's astronomical numbers. I mean, so we scanned all of America.
Yep.
Yay! We scanned all of America, right, with Axiom. So 100 instances. We actually got caught by bad packets. They saw us scanning. And we scanned 58 million IP addresses for the Hafnium vulnerability, right? And that took a day, right? And that's 59 million. I don't know how. I can't think off the top of my head of how many addresses are on IPv6, but it's a lot more than that if you think globally, right?
Yep.
So
let's go with the lots. More than 3.
Octavian says in chat, side note, scanning 150k IPs now with 300 instances. Well done. But yeah, no, I agree. So how often, like, regarding IoTs, I wanted to sort of just barge in earlier, but
Yep.
Have you used IoTs in basically when red teaming? Like, have you had any use of it?
Not with red teaming. Pen testing, so if we include printers in IoT, absolutely. When I think of IoT, I don't think of printers, even though I think it is technically part of it. When I think of IoT, I'm thinking of microwaves and kettles and ovens and
Light
door
bulbs and
control
stuff.
systems. Right. That's what I'm thinking of. Printers actually, a lot of consumer printers do actually get updates a lot, right? And there's probably more support, I guess, in some printer vendors than others. So printers absolutely pass back attacks. Every single network I think I've tested, I found default creds on an embedded device. Every single internal network pen test I've done. And you log on. Sometimes you log on. There's LDAP creds. Like there's some sort of like LDAP connection or some scan to SMB option. And quite often you can do a passback attack. So you just change the IP address of the DC to your responder box and you get the hash of the domain element. Or you can just right click, inspect element, and change text password to text. And it has plain text with domain admin password, right? That's extremely, or you do end-to-end relaying, right? Which is also something I've seen. But IoT printers, absolutely. I've popped some like door control things before and some like video walls before, but they weren't very useful. They weren't domain joined. They didn't have anything on them. I mean, if I wanted to put something on the wall in their office, I could, but as a pen tester, it wasn't really useful. As a bad guy trying to troll, it would be funny, but it wasn't what I was being paid to do. No, not really.
I had a really interesting, like, speaking of that, I had a really interesting case at a previous employer when I was doing like internal CSERT stuff. And then I got a case to me. It says there's a drone just rolling on screens, like at the bottom of screens. It rolls from the left to the right and then it just vanishes. I'm like, what do you mean? So it's basically R2D2 from Star Wars, just actually just passing by. It's like this tall on screens in conference rooms. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. I've seen a lot of cases. This is not one of them. But it turned out, I think it was Cisco that had accidentally pushed something to prod, basically. There was just an internal thing for like May 4th or something, and then it accidentally got pushed into prod, and on like customer stuff, it was an R2D to just droning around on conference
Cisco.
screens. Yeah.
Oh,
I actually have that.
brilliant.
I have that saved somewhere, that clip. I'm going to share it eventually.
Yeah, please do. I want to see it.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a weird hack if it's a hack. It's not even defacing.
Yeah, right. Threat actors don't do that. I
Yeah.
mean, threat actors don't. I mean, we see in movies that they're hacking things, making the lights go crazy. I mean, threat actors aren't doing that. They want to be in and out, or cause as much damage as possible. Right? You don't want a lot of people in your presence.
Yeah.
Which is not with R2D2. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was one of the weirder sort of security incidents I've sort of gotten to in my lap. Like, yeah, I'm not sure where to start here, actually, to be honest. But yeah, we managed to sort it out.
Oh, super crazy.
Sorry, I sort of interrupted in the middle of something.
No.
I just had to mention it. It's
No,
so funny.
This has been a great conversation. I'm loving this. This is fantastic. I think we're making quality content.
Yeah. High quality.
To people out there, we love you. Thank you for staying with us.
Yeah,
We've actually retained
that's impressive.
all of our staff, all of our viewers for the last hour and 20 minutes. So,
Yeah.
so thank you.
So have you seen any well, it's sort of it's a two-part question to Ben. It's like, how have you used any really basic stuff on the offensive side? And David, what sort of really easy stuff have you seen on the defensive side? Because I know we see incidents and we see alarms. We're like someone running like Metasploit stuff on port 4444. So they don't even like bother changing the default port. It's like a one command, like 2 seconds of work, and just not even changing it. Default stuff. That's scripty stuff to me.
Easy stuff. I mean, part of what I want to do too, like a lot of the success I had was small businesses internals. That was my favorite kind of test to do. For a long time, I did a lot of them. Right, like 500 employees less, and it's like a few /24s, maybe a bit bigger. Right, they've never had a pen test before. First ever pen test. That's my favorite. Right, and so basically the way that would go is I'd walk in, I'd open Wireshark, I'd look around, I'd run Nmap, and while I'm running Nmap, I'd just run Responder with Analyze mode, see what comes up. Okay, a lot of activity from Responder, 5 minutes, like hashes, so many accounts, crack them, 10 minutes, right? And then domain admin, like through curb roasting, either through delegation, either there's an account that's got domain administrator privileges by delegation, right there in a group, or curb roasting. Curb roasting is incredibly successful. I mean, at least in my experience. And I've been able to get domain admin before lunch multiple times that way with curb roasting and just Responder, right? So that's probably the easiest thing I think I would probably hit. I mean, I do see things like admin or backups, or it was a Laravel app with .env exposed and .git exposed, and dumped the git, found plain text creds, tried and logged in. I think we actually had a web app test where they wouldn't give us creds for the web app test, but they gave us like the black box web app. Ran Deerbuster, found .git, dumped it within 20 minutes. We had full admin on the application, and we're speaking to the client, and they're like, "Oh, do you just make you any accounts?" It's like, okay, I've just made myself 3 accounts for testing. So that's probably the worst thing I've ever seen is that, and also Responder just blazing networks. I mean, it's not even funny these days. It's just so easy, and just like some easy RCEs, on low priv accounts. But like generally, I think weak passwords, I think, is pretty bad. I mean, you guys have probably seen way worse. I mean, you see incidents every day, so I'd be interested to see what the worst thing you've ever seen is.
Like we said in the bit earlier, or rather in the beginning of this, let's keep it short. I mean, not obfuscating what you're trying to do. Being too obvious. We see that all the time. They're taking shortcuts. They're not even renaming the tools. They're just downloading whatever PSexec and all those things. I mean, you can pretty much see that when they actually get a foothold of the computer, you can actually see them go to sysinternals and downloading the tools they need. It's as you said, Michael, not changing the ports on the attacking tools. We've seen that. I'm trying to think of anything else that we've seen. I mean, some of the attacks are so rudimentary that I don't even know where to begin. But we see some good stuff as well. But yeah,
I've seen one of the easiest things, or the most stupid things I've seen is. A couple of years back, I was at working internally at a company, and then we got a Linux box was hacked. It was being used as a proxy from China, basically, so just proxying to the outside to be able to surf the web, basically. And I'm like, whoa, this is weird. And it turned out that one of the network engineers had created a temporary account on that server with username A, password A. And just left it open to the internet. That was
I wonder how long that took.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it was a really busy proxy. Like I saw it in the network traffic, like how busy it was. So.
Well, I'll tell you what I've done. I actually exposed my burp suite port once on the open internet.
Nice.
I did a reverse port forward, and I didn't close the port. I left the port 8080 open on my VPS. It probably like full on burp suite, right? And because it was burp suite, I could see the traffic and all the credentials. Yeah. And what it was doing is just logging into hundreds of porn sites and creating accounts and testing accounts. So I'm like, okay, thanks for all these porn accounts, right? But like, I mean, that took 5 minutes. I had to expose for 5 minutes. I was doing a hat the box, and I reverse proxied my burp report, and it was 5 minutes, and I had it. I mean, if you put a box on the internet and set the username to root and the password to password, you're gonna get popped within 10 minutes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's gonna happen. Like, it's just
Yeah, it's
mental.
really quick.
I did that a while back. I was running 3 honeypots over on SSH port 22 on the internet. I ran them for around 10 months in total. I think I got around 10 million logins to them. And
Wow.
since they
Wait, so sorry, is that including attempts?
Valid
attempts.
or
invalid? Okay.
Yeah, but both valid and invalid. And I've set it up so you could log in with like summer 2020 or 2021, and so depending on the account, different account had different passwords. And what it did was that every time they got in, I could see that they're trying to run a couple of commands. They tried to compile stuff, and some of the attackers, they just left because they obviously understood that this is a honeypot, nothing is working. But some of them, when they got in, they were just trying to download malware directly onto it. And what the honeypot did was that it streamed the malware down, but it saved it onto my real disk and not to the virtual file system, which was exposed to the honeypot, the person logging into the honeypot. So the file was saved for me, so I could revise it afterwards, and I just sent it to VirusTotal. So it was quite fun, actually, when you got something really new that wasn't found on any site, really. But it's quite fun.
Center in chat says it's probably 80% Mirai.
Nowadays it is, yeah, probably. A few years ago when I did it, it wasn't. So that was the fun part of it. But speaking about how long it takes, I think the fastest server to had login attempts was, I think it was 1 hour 30 seconds after I put it up on the internet. 1 minute 30 seconds. So I'm not sure if I was lucky with that one or whatever it was, but yeah, it's crazy stuff. But
a lot of people don't realize that, right?
No.
Like, they sit around and say, well, we're never going to get hacked. No one's going to target us. We're just a tire repair company in the south of Texas, right? Like, it's not that simple, right? It's it's you're being targeted whether you like it or not. And I think that comes back to like the main theme of this talk, right? This podcast, whatever this is, right? 3 guys talking, is that most factors suck, right? And the reason why they suck is because they can. And actually, if you want ROI and they're a business, the quickest way is to just knock out low-hanging fruit. No point sitting around developing a really insane 0-day to break into a cryptocurrency exchange or breach millions of dollars when you could just do hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a day just ransoming little shops and little businesses, right, that have terrible security. It's like, if you want to make money, that's how you make it. So we really need to just get past that initial like low-hanging fruit. If we just wipe that out, then
Yeah.
It's breaking up.
Headphones are out. So now we can actually talk shit about Ben because he can't hear us. So let's make the
Exactly,
most of it.
Yeah, I actually have a question for Ben. Are you back? He needs to turn on his microphone, I guess. Will this screw something up for you, Michael?
Nope.
No.
hey,
You're back. Cool.
go.
Yeah,
I did say that my headphones were dying. They did that little beat. They go,
Yep.
I'm like, I'll be all right. I'll
And
be
then
all
you were
right.
gone.
Where did you lose? Can't be that cool.
I actually have a question for you two guys. Have you ever run into a threat actor and messed with them? No, you haven't. Oh, what a boring life you live.
Well, I'm obviously on the offensive side, so maybe I was the threat actor.
Yeah, maybe you are the threat actor.
I am the threat actor. I have messed with the sock though, which is fun. Michael, we've messed with your sock.
Yeah, that's fun, right?
Which is fun. It's more fun playing with sock. I have also opened Netcat on my server before and waited, and someone actually connected once, and I had a conversation with a random person over Netcat. I don't know who they are. I've had probably like 6 conversations over Netcat to strangers. I've never found out who they are at the end, which was always interesting.
That should be a
So
YouTube
that's
series. Strangers on the Netcat. Just
An awesome title as well. Oh, I can see that. Yeah, do it and record
think
everything.
I think the problem is that if you actually sit with NAC open, the majority of the time it's just random strings from HTTP coming.
Yeah.
But every now and then someone will. I mean, I think it might be someone I knew, right? But I don't know. But
yeah, the Rudy in chat says it's the next hit on the chat app market. It's
Yeah,
the next
right.
Omegle, right?
it's yeah. NetCat Omegle.
That should be a thing.
I think if we started a NetCat for Omegle, it would just end up with like mostly men, sending pictures of themselves. I think that's what would happen.
Yeah, ASCII dick pics. Yeah, maybe it's not such a hit after all. I don't know.
This escalated quickly.
If you make a an Omegle for NetCat, I mean that's definitely eventually going to happen. It's going to happen eventually.
What about you, Michael? Have you messed with a threat actor?
I don't think I have actually. Like apart from honeypots, of course, like the most obvious thing, but not.
Yeah.
Apart from that, no.
I don't
I don't think so. No.
Putting up a honeypot isn't messing with threat actors.
So that's a no for me.
Yeah.
I haven't done that.
Okay.
What have you done?
Okay, so yes, what have I done? Oh.
What have you done, David?
What have I done?
Yes, we are looking for you. Where are you living, David? We are going
that's
to
real
go after you.
Yeah, exactly. So I got an email. I got a phishing email a few years ago. It was more than a few years ago. But I was I clicked the link, and I was examining the web page where they brought me, and I just realized that whatever I'm typing into these boxes and hitting send, it will be put into a one of those Google spreadsheets. And I found the link to the Google spreadsheet, and I opened it, and I just saw a couple of thousand rows. It was like usernames and passwords. So I wrote a program that basically just took an enormous string with first names, and then I compiled a list with last names. So it randomized the first name and the last name, and then it randomized a password ranging everything from 6 to like 12 characters or something. Sometimes it used words as well. So I wrote that program, I tested it, and it worked quite beautifully when it just posted it using that link like the web page used. So I went back into the Google Sheet. I just marked everything and deleted everything, and then I ran my program for a couple of hours. Yeah, good luck trying those.
Awesome.
Like lisa.james@hotmail.com. No, this login doesn't work. Weird. Okay, next one on the list, because we got a couple of 100,000 here. Let's do it. So that was good fun.
That is fun, actually. I like that.
I was later thinking about optimizing it, like, because it generated first name dot last name at like Hotmail, Yahoo email, or whatever, a couple of more of them. But a lot of email addresses are like yippee at Hotmail or whatever. So yeah,
That's amazing.
It was a good while ago, but it was so much fun. And I've just wanted to see this, the look on their face when they wake up and they open their Google spreadsheet and like, yes, look
at all the stuff we got here. Let's go work urine. You take top, I take bottom. Let's meet in half.
And there they go. And it's like, and nothing works. I mean, every single login just fails. So that's one of my proudest moments messing with threat actors, because they suck. They don't protect their stuff. It was
why should they if it works 99% of the time, right? It's all about ROI.
Yeah. And then one time they hit me and like, oops.
So sort of continuing on that sort of thread then, like assuming that the hackers or the threat actors that we talk about, they suck, and probably just assume that their OPSEC might be crap as well. What's your opinion to hack back, if you can? Ooh.
Well, from a legal side of things, you shouldn't. It's illegal. So from the legal side of things, you shouldn't.
Do you think it should be legal?
Then again, this is a borderline thing. Was I breaking the law when I opened this Google spreadsheet? It wasn't for me. The information in it wasn't for me. So was I breaking the law when I actually opened that link and
Unauthorized
also deleted all the information that was there
Yeah.
before putting in fake stuff? I don't know. Maybe it
Probably.
was.
Probably. I mean,
yeah.
but then again, he's opening a Google
I'll
sheet
be
or
walking
posting to a
free.
form.
Yeah, if that case went to court, I'd be walking free, I guess.
Yeah.
With a warning.
Well,
Don't
maybe
do
in Sweden, in America, you go straight to prison for 40 years.
Oh yeah, I get like 20 years in the electric chair or something. So
Yeah. But what if you find what if you find some of their infrastructure and you know you can get in? Would you do it?
No, of course not.
Have you done it?
Of course
Oh.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay. It's never gonna happen.
Never. I would
Nope.
never.
But like hypothetically, if you could.
I would never break the law, Michael.
Yeah, perfect.
I've never broken the law in my life.
No.
Same here. It's never happened.
But ethically, if it was legal in a
Yeah.
theoretical world, right? I think
Yep.
it would be, even if it was illegal, I think it would be an ethical thing to do. I don't think it would be a legal thing to do. I think I wouldn't recommend anyone to do it. But in a world where you could get away with it, and maybe I have a friend who would have, right? I think morally, I think it'd be a good thing to do. I think that, I think the problem with hackback laws is that it would be insanely hard to regulate, and you'd end up with companies hacking legitimate services, thinking that they're threat actors, right? How does you know it's a threat actor,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how do you not coming from compromised infrastructure? I mean, you see it all the time.
Exactly.
It's either so bad or it's already been pwned. You log in with pwned or admin pwned, right? In the web GUI, right? I mean, it's they're probably vulnerable because that's how the threat actor got in as well, right? But then again, if you take that offline, is that just taking down some business's website? You know, there's so many other things that when we start introducing, I think if you can be smart about it and you know it's not legitimate system, you're not going to impact any other things. I think that's exactly I think it would be good. There's even an article called Internet Chemotherapy. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a tale. I've heard it's fan fiction. I wish it was real. But there's a tale of a hacker who's been scanning the internet in Asia, and he's been finding ODAs for threat actors in IoT devices, and then releasing malware to patch the devices. So like good malware, right? Like good viruses to break in,
Samaritan, basically.
patch it, and then scan the internet, and then spread, and then patch other devices, right? So its only purpose is to patch and get out, which I think is an awesome idea, but
that's been done, right? By the name sort of eludes me. Vigilante something, right? I think that's been done not long ago. Like I want to say 2 years ago ish.
Brickerbot, is that what it's called? No,
I don't remember the name, but yeah, I've seen that.
Well, I have an article.
What pops into my mind is that the Japanese government did this 2 years ago before the proposed Summer Olympics of 2020. So in 2019, they the government actually said we are going to patch every IoT device connected to the internet that we can find that aren't secure. And there are probably more stories as well. It's good if you find the link, Ben, but I can't think of it.
Yeah.
The Japanese government, it's what pops into my mind. Speaking about that, yeah.
And now when the Olympics are in China, they're like, nope, we got everything under control already. We'll just firewall it. Get the great
I've actually
firewall.
found something. I posted it in our chat, so I don't have actually logged into Twitch if you want to share that. This is what I'm talking about, internet chemotherapy. Some random person made I don't know if it was the actual threat actor. I think it was just someone reposting. It's actually code for things that supposedly did this.
I'm gonna post that in chat. So
Oh,
I'm faster than you. I
Yeah.
won.
Yeah, you
Everything's
won.
erased, David. I
it
got
is.
So that's the chat is this is gonna be awful content for like for the audio podcast later. Hey, here's a link.
Yeah.
Do we have show notes? Do we have a show notes or something? I mean, if you just for audio listeners, if you just search on OSEC 0x00sec.org, if you just search internet chemotherapy, it's all there. But it's actually the code for one of the breaker bots, or one of the, I don't know if I'm messing that up completely, but one of the the post where essentially the guy's talking about how he's been scanning the internet and patching things.
So what's your take on that then? Is that okay? I think it is. Well, not okay. I think I like the idea. I'm not saying it's okay.
I think
but
it's
like
a
the
lesser
idea.
evil. I think it's a lesser evil. I think if you scan, I mean, not saying that anyone should do this, but if someone did do this, not endorsing it, if you did scan the internet and you found 50,000 vulnerable IoT devices, and you patched them all with a bot that scanned and patched them all, and you took 100 businesses offline for the night, I think that's a lesser evil than things getting ransomed. Right? If you leave a note on what's happened, right? You leave some sort of note, we did this, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a lesser evil than something getting popped, pivoted, and then people's data being lost, because vulnerable devices is negligence, right? There's real life consequences to these actions. If a company gets ransomed and goes out of business, that's people's jobs, people's families. So I think morally, ethically, I think it's positive, even if there is problems.
But if you brick it when you patch it,
well, that's what I'm saying, right? If you brick it, I think that's a less evil, because at least they've noticed something's not working and they go and change the box for a new box. Oh, the router's not working. Call an IT guy in. Yeah, they lose a couple of days of business. I mean,
hey, wake up, man! You need to put this box here. Yeah.
Right. It actually makes you do something. I mean, you see boxes all the time that are filled with crypto miner.
Oh yeah.
And they're fun. And they sit there exploited for years, and then they get more and more exploited until the crypto miner bots end up making the box unusable. And then why isn't this box not working? And it gives someone a reason to go and look at it. So even just turning the boxes off is one thing.
No, you can't. We have 10-year uptime on this one. Don't touch it.
Yes.
Just make it work, Dave.
What do you
what
think?
you can, but don't.
And David, what do you think? Do you think it's a lesser evil?
It's one of those things where I'm the same as you. I wouldn't endorse it, but like when I read about it, I'm like, yeah, this is a good thing. I mean, yeah, I think it's okay. Not legal, of course, but yeah, I like it.
And David?
David is more neutral, I think.
I'm slightly on the same page as you, but when you're using the less evil all the time, the only thing that pops into my mind is the film Hot Fuzz, with a greater good. We do this for the greater good.
Right.
Greater good.
Right. It's a slippery slope, right?
Yeah. It is. So.
Yes, like where do you draw the line then?
Yeah, I mean, when you patch it, can you actually trust the person patching it? Is that person putting in a backdoor in some way? Is it what's actually happening? Isn't it better if you scan the internet and you find all these devices that they're seriously unsecure, and if you patch it and put a note there, if you just put a note there, or if you try to contact the company in another way saying, I found this device, it's exposed to the internet, and it's insecure, please patch it in this way, like here's the documentation how to do it. It's more or less of a business, but it's super hard. I mean, I think it's intrusion patching other people's systems.
Yeah. IPS, intrusion patching systems.
Oh yeah, nice. Nice.
So what if IoT makers actually made stuff auto update? Crazy idea.
You're gonna have Victor Stallman on your ass if you say that, because then providers can inject their own malware. That's the other thing.
Yep. Yeah, we've seen that with the PHP thingy, very recent, and we've seen others. We've seen it sometimes before as well, when there is a backdoor implemented, and boom, it's actually just spreading out to all the customers that using this vendor, and then you have a backdoor, and then they need to patch it and send out some more updates. And so I seriously don't recommend auto updating. You should update, but you should actually read what you're updating, and you should have a test environment, and you should have an acceptance environment, and you should have a production environment, and you should go through all these stuff all these steps and all these environments before you put something into production.
But
No, it costs
I'm
money.
sort of I'm sort of leaning more towards like light bulbs, fridges, microwaves and stuff. Like you're not gonna have a production environment and testing lab for your
No,
fridge.
that's true. Like
Or we could just
the
stop
things
buying
behind me.
IoT. I mean, we could just,
Yeah, just-
stop
yeah.
IoT. I have when you're finished on that point, I have another scenario to paint with you.
That well, if we're talking about the purple light and the pink light and the yellow light, I mean, not auto updating them, but I mean, give me a push notice saying, well, we have an update for you, and I will probably just hit update because I'm an Apple user, so I hit update more often than Android users. Apparently, it said so on the internet. Someone said so on the internet, so it must be true.
Very good.
I wrote down a quote from Twitter today just to bring it up with you two.
Okay.
About Mac. And the quote is from Jay Gamblin on Twitter. He says, "Mac OS is just Linux for executives."
I mean, it's BSD for executive.
True.
Yes. Exactly, it's not Linux.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for that. Just
Anyway,
yeah. Next
Andrew,
scenario.
So this is not so we're talking about lesser evils, right? Now I'm not going to actually ask you to make a decision on this. The answer should be obvious, but it might not be. You might struggle with this. Okay. And now some little heads up. This test is actually what they give to you as a psychopath test. If you go and get tested for as a psychopath, you might be given this as a scenario. So
Yes.
there's a train. Okay, and by the train is a bridge. Okay, there's a bunch of people stood on the bridge. A big fat guy is on the middle of the bridge, right, looking over the train tracks with his camera, right. And at the end of the tracks are the stops, right. There's like the stop buffets, I think they're called, right, at the end to stop the train, and then there's a row of 50 people tied up by terrorists on the track. Now you are seeing this train, in a split second, you're seeing this train thunder through, and you see it's going to hit all these 50 people and kill them all. Now, there's one thing that you can do. You can push the big fat guy off the bridge, land onto the train tracks, and he's so fat, he's going to stop the train. That would never happen, but let's say that would happen, right? Let's say that was the choice you had to make. Now, you could act, kill somebody, and save people's lives, right? Now, if you look at it from a lesser evil, killing the fat guy is a much lesser evil than killing the 50 people. But you're taking action, and you're going to be a part of this problem, right? You're going to be the one that's committed the action. So in that case, what would you choose? Would you let the train kill the 50 people, or would you sacrifice this guy's life? And that's the same thing as the bot, right? I mean,
Yeah.
do you watch all these things about to get ransomed? Do you just stand by and watch and do nothing because you don't want to have a part in it? Or do you kill the fat guy by patching 20,000 devices and you knock over 100 businesses at the same time by bricking it? It's the same kind of scenario, really, right?
It's called the trolley problem, isn't it?
Is it? Is that what it's called?
I think it's called the trolley problem.
Sounds like a
The thing
cholesterol
is,
problem.
yeah, it should be. The thing is with that guy on the bridge, we don't know if he will find the cure for cancer tomorrow. Do you want to kill the person finding the cure for cancer the day before he's supposed to find the cure for cancer? Shouldn't we sacrifice those 50 people for finding the cure for cancer? I mean, you could take this down so many roads.
What if some of the people lying down have a cure for cancer? Do
Exactly.
we now prioritize life based on
Exactly.
how do we prioritize life?
That was my next suggestion. What if one of those 50 people actually had the cure for cancer in their pocket, or haven't written it down yet? They have it in their heads. You can take this down so many roads. So yeah.
Right, so if he's fat enough to stop a fucking train full speed, he's gonna die tomorrow anyway. So I mean that's probably
Ooh. That's a take.
right.
I think we've just lost like 3 viewers.
Yeah. No,
I think we've lost more than that.
yeah, true. No,
I think it says we're getting on in time. I don't think it's necessarily the conversation.
It's like Cartman. I can't do Cartman anymore. I could do Cartman before, but
Hey, I'm not fat, I'm big bone.
or whatever he says. Like
Hey, screw you guys.
South Park.
yeah,
Cartman
from South Park.
Hey, I'm not fat, I'm big bone.
All right, so
Screw you guys.
let me skip to another segment of this show or podcast that I usually have. I haven't actually mentioned it to you, Ben, so this is news to you. It's called overrated, underrated, and the idea is that I mention a topic or a word or something, and then you tell me or us if you think it's overrated or underrated.
I like it.
Yeah. So
It's super fun.
it's easy.
Okay, so
Like they're easy
initial
questions. Yeah, they're easy questions, but it might be hard to answer. So
I've done it and I survived. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, during the disclaimer, I might be wrong and I
Yeah.
might not be educated.
Nope.
So if I am, then I'm not married to any of these. necessarily.
True.
We
I
won't
can change
quote
my
you
mind
on it. Yeah, we won't
So,
quote you on it.
David, you
Go
did
ahead.
this last time, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah,
to Ben.
I'd love to be the audience this time.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Well,
super
I mean,
fun.
the first topic at least. So, first up, Ben, is 0 days. Are they overrated or underrated?
Overrated.
Why?
Wait, well, when you say overrated, to who?
To you? Do you think they are? I mean, yeah, that's like your initial take on it. If you're thinking of businesses, then that's it, or you as a
Right,
red team
yeah.
or something. It's,
Right. I think in terms of business, I think there are plenty of O days in circulation. Do I think that O days cause a lot of breaches? No. Well, breaches I think have impact. I don't think ransomware actors are running around using O days to make money with ransoms. I think some of them might, but I think O days are being used by the shadow brokers for internet surveillance. So from a impactful point of view, in terms of like general visible impact that we can see, and like ransomware, which is one of the biggest problems, I think they're totally overrated. If we're talking about people's safety and security and like, nation states using them to surveil people, I think they're probably underrated a little bit. There's a lot. I think the most problem with 0 days is embedded devices. I think there's so many embedded devices or esoteric things, like things in Solaris and so on, that probably have many 0 days. So probably underrated and overrated, depending on, but probably overrated.
right?
Dodging it quite nicely.
But it's
I'm
hard.
hedging myself.
Like these are actually hard to sort of have a solid opinion of. I think. David, you have anything to add, or I think you did this last time on 0 days.
No, I did it last time, and I really like Price answer to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So next
Good.
one, let's start with you, David, for this one.
Oh, okay.
So-
I thought I was supposed to be the audience. Okay.
You're in.
Okay.
And then Ben, you get to answer this the same one. So attribution, is that overrated or underrated?
I think it's underrated. I think we should spend more time and more resources on actually finding who's behind the attack, because that would help us understand the rest of the attack. If they have reached the end goal, if will there be more attacks? Will they come back in another way? And so on. And we will be better to answer that if we know who's attacking us. So I would say I was underrated, and we should spend more time with it.
All right. Pry. Attribution.
I think it's super overrated. I just
Nice.
straight disagree with David. I think it's overrated because I see a lot of threat modeling systems that focus on like trying to figure out who are your threat actors and list them all out and then all this. I think that's kind of a waste of time a little bit, because I think if you just focus on your initial access vectors and like just go through the MITRE ATT&CK framework, as long as you apply defense in depth, I think it should apply for every threat actor, depending on, I might be wrong here, but I would imagine if you go through all of the MITRE ATT&CK framework, try every single initial access vector, then move on, lateral movement, move on, post-infiltration, move on, exfiltration. I think if you go through those steps and harden from that perspective versus thinking about who the threat actor is and what their goals are, I think you will figure that out. And I also think that attribution is incredibly difficult. I think it has incredible consequences, especially in the political climate we're in today. That I think if you misattribute a threat, say there's someone unqualified in the in America in the office, right, who attributes a threat to Russia or China, and we end up with nuclear war over it, over some piece of malware coded in Chinese, I think that's incredibly dangerous. So I think we should I don't think we're there yet. I think for some firms, definitely, but I think we're not there yet. I think attribution is overrated for now. I think we should just focus on the flow of attackers first. But it's my take.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference with saying that I think they did it over there instead of, hey, you over there, you did it.
Right. Right.
Attribution could be like, I think it's them. And if it's them, they should be doing this. This is the next step. I know that because I read up on them. And if you see something that's similar to that and could be attributed to that, it could help you. But I'm with you as well. It's you have a good point. I mean, it doesn't really matter who's after you if you have systems that haven't been patched for 9 months or your server is running for 10 years. I mean, who cares? So fix that shit first, and then do the attribution if you have time over.
I think you're
But,
totally right, actually, too. Like, it doesn't have to be, it was you, or you just like peers, it was this actor. The only worry I have is that someone reads that in a report from TrueSecSoc, and then it ends up in New York Times as, it was China. This company said it was China. No, we said it looked like China, right? I think that's the risk also.
being misquoted, yeah, that's
Right.
That's never happened before. In
that's
the
a danger.
newspapers.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Right.
Oh boy.
Good. We got some more. So,
Ooh.
I like this.
David, you did this one last time, I think, so it's up to Ben this time.
Yeah.
Certifications. Are they underrated or overrated?
I actually am on both sides of this. I
Again?
actually don't have. I'm on both sides of this.
It's okay.
I think it entirely depends on the person. Some people, like my fiance, work really well with certificates, and she has a lot of them. She's very qualified, and she works very well with going through a structured approach and going through the syllabus. And a lot of people work like that. And I think if you want to do OSCP, you want to do the CISSP, you want to do any of these certs, as long as you understand the value that they bring you, and I think if you focus on learning versus trying to use it as a badge to show that you're better than other people, I think they can be incredibly useful as a way of tracking your progression. People like me, I don't have any certs, right? I don't have any. I think I might have like a Fortinet NSE 3 cert, which you watch some quizzes and answer a pop quiz. I think that's the extent of my certs. And I don't work well with certs. I hate certs. I would much rather sit in TMUX and read an article and spend a night working and learning on something that I'm interested in versus going through a syllabus and whatever, which does disadvantage you in some ways, I think. Same as if you only do certificate-based training versus self-teaching or experience-based training. I think you're going to miss things too. So overrated and underrated, I think they are overrated as far as the government is concerned. I think the government places far too much. I think a lot of places also place far too much importance on certificates. I also think that we tell kids that they need certs because ultimately colleges are profit-based businesses, and it's in their interest to push that narrative. That's my opinion. I think lots of kids don't necessarily need certificates, and there's a lot of people telling you have to follow a certain path, and you don't. You can forge your own path. If you just use GitHub and you make tools and you release articles and you speak at conferences, you talk to people, get to know business owners, I think you can forge your own path in this industry. And there's such a lack of talent proportionate to the need. I think you almost are in a buyer's market as a security professional, especially a skilled one. Seller's market, sorry, you get to pick where you go with a couple of years experience. So I think kids these days don't really realize how easy it can be to get in the industry once you get past that initial first job. When you got your first job, 2-3 years, you start getting your pick of the litter. And certs can help you with that. So I think it depends on where you want to end up. If you want to end up in compliance or be a CISO, you need certs because they won't even let you in the door. If you want to be a pen tester, OSCP, right? Depending on the company, if you're in the UK, CRT. And if you want to be, I think that's all you really need. Maybe Security Plus for fundamentals. So I think, certs, I think they're overrated from an employment perspective. From a personal learning perspective, I think they can be underrated. I think people can discount certificates because of the kind of people that end up getting lots of certificates, right? There's some people that give it a bad name. So I think they should be used and have that place. But I also think that they can be overrated in some ways too.
Yeah, that's a really good take on it. David, anything to add? Because I think I asked you this last time.
Yep, you asked me last time. And we also touched on it. It could be certification for a company as well. But anywho.
Yeah. Next up, then, I think I might have. I'll start with you, David, because I know Ben's answer. I think. So, open source, is that overrated or underrated?
Oh, overrated. I think it's underrated. I think we're underrating. I think we're also underestimating the power of the collective work we can put in together to actually make stuff. So I would say, yeah, I would definitely say it's underrated.
Yeah. Ben, then, what's your take on it?
Both sides of the argument again, although I would probably say underrated first. I'd say underrated in the fact that I think there are companies that throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at projects and end up with nothing. Like the NHS COVID app, they spent millions of dollars on that, and it's shit, right?
Same in Sweden.
Now, I also think if that was an open source project and you put 10 nerds with some free time, in 3 weeks you could end up with something better, right? If they were really motivated and passionate. Open source is incredibly powerful. Open source gives you the crowdsourcing ability. I also think that open source allows people to have a different take. I mean, people have done things with Axiom that I never imagined. If I never made Axiom public as open source, it would be much worse than it is today. I've had some amazing people come through and show me what they can do with it that I had no idea you could do. And it's like Tim Berners-Lee, he made the internet, I don't know if it's really open source, but he made it public. He made it free for everybody. And that's what connected all the internets together. And I think if he hadn't have done that, we wouldn't have the open free society, because a lot of innovation comes from kids that don't have any money. It comes from people who want to do something in their spare time, who can't get over that initial barrier of entry of the cost of a product, right? That's why I got into Linux. I didn't have any money, so I installed Ubuntu and I installed Linux Server, and it's all free and open source. I mean, not necessarily free and open source go hand in hand, I would say in some ways, but being able to read code and learn how it works, I think that's incredibly underrated. I think it's a bit overrated in some ways in security. I think people believe something's more secure because it's open source. I think that can be true, but I think you also have a huge bystander effect with open source security, which is, OpenSSL has been on Git repo for 15 years. I'm sure it's been co-reviewed by many smart people before, and so you don't even look. Bystander effect. I'm sure it would be secure, and I think that's the problem. I think we have to trust open source software less and trust dependency less. I think that's definitely overrated. No, underrated. But I think we think the security of open source software is more than it is. I think it's actually less secure than we think. I mean, I don't want to keep talking. I'm sorry.
No, interesting. Do
keep going.
Go on.
I mean, an example is I'm working on a project with some dudes from the Darwin team on OSEC. We're a group of people doing some security research, and I wanted to just get some easy wins. So I scraped the top 1,000 WordPress plugins, most popular WordPress plugins, and I ran it through semgrep, and I grepped for like SQL errors. I grepped for MySQL queries, all sorts of things that would potentially show me an indicator of application vulnerability. And a lot of that was very vulnerable. That's open source stuff on GitHub, right? These plugins are open, and the source is open to download for anybody. It's free plugins, and we trust them and install them every day. Now WordPress is another kettle of fish. But I think that's my take.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could be a whole new episode. Is closed source code more secure than open source code? I'm not even gonna open that jar. Easily 2 hours, I guess. And I don't really have I don't stand on either side actually, because in one way I can think that closed source could be more insecure because there are probably people working as coders for that company doing the closed source that are maybe more lazy, but the open source coders could be more passionate and therefore make better code. But again, code is made by developers, and developers are known to make shortcuts and make things easy for themselves. But when you were talking, Ben, I was thinking about the bug in the SSH protocol. I think the bug was introduced in 1995 and it was found in 2018. So it's been there for more than 20 years before anyone actually noticed it, and the code was just public. Anyone could just review it, but no one did, or perhaps someone did and didn't understand it, or just didn't see it. So yeah, it's just one of those freaky history thingy. I'm gonna post a link to a good blog about it.
So
Yeah.
speaking
Yeah.
of old CVs, did you hear that there was a CV from 1967 from the Turing machine? They found a vulnerability in the Turing
Yes.
machine. So that's
No, I missed it.
like
I
Okay.
heard
a
about that.
50-year-old bug that they found.
I think it's awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's
Absolute waste of time, but
Yeah.
like, good for
I
you,
love
man.
it.
Like, that's awesome. Like, you sat there and like tried to hack a Turing machine. Like, nothing but respect.
Yeah, I love that part. David,
Jesus,
you
yeah.
can't paste links in the chat. Paste it to me, and I can link it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So we got a question from chat. I'm not sure. I'll just read it out loud, and you guys can answer it if you can. So it's regarding open source. Do we have a different stance on open source when it comes to legitimate products versus POCs? Which I assume is proof of concepts even here.
I'm not sure what that. I don't understand what that means.
I wasn't even sure. Except, could you elaborate on that? I was hoping you guys would
Understood.
yeah, because you're smarter than I am. So in
Oh, okay. I think maybe they mean like proof of concept vulnerabilities. Should proof of concept vulnerabilities be open source? Help us out here.
yeah. In the meantime, let's hear your take on open source projects that's not free. Then I mean, or well, I'm thinking sort of Responder, because that was an issue a while back, right? That they wanted to get paid for. Wasn't that Responder?
No, I don't think it was really an issue with that. I think it was just that, just noting that companies will gladly exploit. Well, not exploit, but I mean, maybe it is. But companies will happily use open source software for free throughout their entire business and never pass a cent back and make money off that, right? I think the difficulty we have, I mean, this becomes a problem with the security industry where you have people in our free time in our industry giving out free code, and that's because we want people to, okay, we had a response. For example, when you have frameworks like C3 being public, which is pretty legit and useful, or POCs that just implement exploits which don't necessarily help defend. Okay, this is going to be a different. I guess I'm going to be interested to see what the defenders say on this. As an offensive person, this is the open source debate. That on one side, we are causing problems. On one side. On one side, we are selling the poison and also the cure. I think that's one side of it. I think on the other side of it, though, I do think that how publicly available something is or how easy it is to exploit is proportionate to how quickly a company or lazy company will patch. Many risk management systems in themselves will actually say, exploit public? Yes or no? And it affects the severity based on if it's public or not. Things like Firesheep. Are you guys familiar with Firesheep? Do you remember that? Back in 2006, I think it was.
Yeah, I was gonna say the old one, right?
Right, and so when was it? Let's look on.
Later than that, I want
to. Oh, 2010.
Yeah.
So October 2010. So it was a plugin you could install on Firefox where you could sniff cookies, right? And it was making a highlight of how dumb and insecure HTTP is, and people wouldn't listen to how insecure HTTP was. Then they released Firesheep, and then it made it extremely easy in Mozilla Firefox with no other plugins. You could steal people's Facebook sessions and just log in with them on public Wi-Fi, right? I'm not sure if you needed any other kind of what was it, just Wi-Fi communications? But anyway, it made it easy as hell. And then shortly after this, we saw SSL rolling out everywhere: Facebook, Google, YouTube. This is a threat actor. This is a threat that actually can be exploited. So I think while on one side, like frameworks like C3 are making it easy for attackers, right? But
it was a paradigm shift, really, when this hit.
Right. And this changed my viewpoint a lot. And the thing with something like C3 is, yes, you can fingerprint it, right? Yes, you can sit down in a lab and test it. I mean, we've just been doing red teaming, right? We've been using Meterpreter, right? We've been using Cobalt Strike and things like that, right? Now, Cobalt Strike is a paid-for product, okay? And if you want to try and get access to that, a lot of places can't get it for detection purposes. If you're a SOC and you contact asking for Cobalt Strike for purely protection purposes, they will say get lost, because that's not what they sell it for. They sell it for red teams, right? Now, you guys know, you see Cobalt Strike all the time. I'm sure you do, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Quite often.
Do you think Access paid for it? So what is that doing to the bar? Right, there's a barrier of entry to actual legit defenders, and if it was open source, anyone could test it and use it and fingerprint it. That's my take.
Yeah, a few years ago, on the same page, a few years ago, that they were saying called Moore's law, because Morse was the inventor of Meterpreter. So I mean, the level of security that you should have is actually what comes out of Meterpreter. You should be able to detect everything that comes with it. So when they ship a new module, you should be able to detect it, and you should actually be able to, well, stop it, prevent it.
Right.
So it was a race that actually was turned into this saying called Moore's law. So every time Morse updated Meterpreter, all the companies need to up their game and defend for something new they didn't know about before, and so on. But yeah, it's on the same page. Just wanted to mention it. Sorry.
So offensive security tools are good.
Yeah.
On the grand scheme of things. Yeah, I agree with that. But I do think that if you find an O-Day in Nginx tonight, in the latest version of Nginx, I do not think you should post it hot. A few years ago, I would have said drop it hot, screw the defenders, right? But now I would say contact the organization, keep it low key, you know, release an article saying you just broke it, and have them patch it first, and then don't release your POC until give them like a 3-week head start. I think that's fair. I think it should become public, and I think it should become public soon enough. But you should at least give people a head start and a heads up. I don't necessarily. I think then also though, if you make an O-Day, it's up to you what you do with it. I'm not gonna hate you if you drop an O-Day tomorrow, whatever, right? If you want some clout, good for you, right? I think they can be cool, but at the same time, I also think that would be nice if you gave people a heads up. I think even as a red teamer, right? Even as an Avengers person, I would like to see people have some heads up.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I got the last little topic here for overrated, underrated.
Yeah, I like this game.
Last one, Vance, for you. Phishing, is that overrated or underrated?
Me.
Yeah.
Overrated or underrated by who? Companies? Public awareness?
Let's say let's do it from the defensive side.
I think phishing is one of the core ways that companies get breached. So I think it's totally probably underrated. I think people realize the risk of phishing or what can happen when you phish somebody. I think from an attacker viewpoint, I think it's also probably underrated. I think phishing is great if you want to get in, right? So I think it's extremely effective. So yeah, I think it's extremely probably underrated. I don't know what people think of phishing. I don't know what the general public thinks of phishing. They probably don't see the risk in it.
I wonder what the chat thinks. If phishing is overrated or underrated.
What do you think, David?
Do you use phishing in your red team engagements, or is that sort of out of scope, or is it unnecessary?
I have in pen test engagements. But generally it becomes a business problem. And I think a lot of the time, if your goal is to gain initial access and prove initial access, I think phishing is a waste of time. I think if your goal is to test how many people click, I think it's a great idea. Because otherwise the company pays 20 grand for you to send an email to somebody.
Yeah, which will succeed eventually.
Right, which will succeed eventually. So I think we should just assume that they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should just assume that you're gonna get in if you through phishing. We should just assume breach scenarios. I think are fantastic. But I don't think in many cases, if a company wants the best bang for their buck, they should spend lots of money trying to phish and get access. I think you should just give them access or have someone who's agreed to click. I think that's a good balance.
Yeah, I had another pen tester on a couple of weeks ago, and I asked her if you had a week to craft a spear phishing email on a specific C-level person, like what's your success rate for them sort of clicking the link, not necessarily entering their credential on it, but actually clicking on it? And she said she was 100%.
Wow, well, they must be a fantastic pen tester. That's very high, 100% click rate.
Yep, she's good.
Yeah. So if you had a week and like your only task was to craft a spearfish, or multiple spearfish that they eventually clicked on.
I've never had that scenario, so I can't provide But I think if I had a week, I would probably. There's so many other factors,
Yeah.
right? Do they have email filtering? Do they have? I mean, how are you fishing? If you got good domains, so I mean, what are you asking? What lure I would use, or what I think the success rate would be?
Yeah, what your success rate would be, because lure is probably like what their. I go for their sort of personal interest. Like if they ran a race, if they ran a marathon on Sunday, I'd email them on Monday. Like here's the results for yesterday's marathon. So just they will click on it. Like, because if you expect an email, then you're more likely to click on it. I'd say.
If I was going to break into a sea level and I had a week, I wouldn't actually do an email. I would have a fake social media and I would follow them around and I would DM them and talk to them about their favorite topic, and then I'd be like, oh, by the way, I also have this one thing that you need. How about I send you an email and we book a meeting on Monday?
Yeah.
You know, that would be how I would do it, and I'd have a meeting and I'd chat with them, and then I would I'm gonna just send you over a quote later, play a sales guy, and then send them a quote with a PDF with a lure in it. I think that would be incredibly successful. But I think my success rate personally is pretty low, but I think that's because I'm not really good at fishing.
Yeah. Like, so in this email, if you get a macro warning, just click it. It's okay because it's from me.
It's
so.
a calculator. It's a quote calculator.
Exactly. Just enable macros. It's okay.
Some people, we often hear that the humans are the last line of the defense, but I think that's not true, and phishing proves that every day. Because someone will click that link, and then you need an EDR to actually detect it. So, yep.
Yeah, we sort of got the same feelings in chat, I'd say. Rudy says that phishing is one of the most basic and cheapest attack methods, and sometimes it just takes one person to click out of thousands. So, exactly, just one person to click that and enable macros, and that's it.
It's like sales. If you contact 1 million people, your conversion rate maybe 1%. That's a damn lot of people.
It's like Tinder, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, it's like Tinder. If you keep swiping, you will get lucky eventually.
Or Netcat or Meagle, whatever. It's same thing.
Yeah.
And then Excenter says, I think phishing is underrated. It's also a great way to have employees open their eyes and realize they were vulnerable compared to just management and IT staff.
So for awareness, definitely underrated.
Yeah.
I think it's hard with the blame game. Like, do you single out person who has clicked on it, and you have to go to this course next week because you clicked on stupid stuff.
I think you should do it in another way.
Fire them.
Because
okay, sure.
No, I mean you should have interactive training for like everybody. It doesn't matter if you ace them all the time. You should perhaps give a gift or something to the person's acing it all the time, and just keep repeating it. To like everybody, so you don't single out. Oh, hey, you suck. Oh, you must be a threat actor because you suck.
That's the definition.
So,
of a threat actor. If you suck at anything,
you're probably a threat actor.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, so the personnel, the persons. It's human beings behind the screens clicking. They're just trying to do their job, and they're trying to do their best. It's not in their intention to actually damage the company they are working for. That's pretty important to know. So if you have this sort of training for everybody, so you don't single them out, and then if someone aces it, just give them a ticket, not a ticket, but a pay rate. Yeah, I don't know, by cinema ticket or whatever. Like, go see a movie. You did well, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's like you want positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, right? You want to have something that's like a little bit uncomfortable, that they like have to go and do this damn training again, so it reminds them. But you don't want them to be blamed or like punished. You never want to get to that point. And then you want to also reward people for doing well.
Yeah. And then hopefully,
plot twist.
If everybody, so let's say if you ace it, you will get a free lunch. If everybody gets a free lunch but you will still be singled out, and it will feel kind of crappy not to get that free lunch. Like, everybody is sitting down and eating free lunch, and you're like, I have to pay for yours.
Well, that's why. I have some takes on this.
But I have a plot twist on that. So if there's some employee that actually aces that test, and then they get like a ticket to the cinema so you can go and see that, that is actually another phishing email. It's not an
Yeah.
actual ticket. It's a phishing email, so you get screwed.
Oh, that's super. Oh, you did well on the phishing test. Here's your price, and they click
It's a
it and
phishing
boom!
email.
Exactly.
Stupid. You must be a
That's-
threat actor.
That's
a threat
unethical.
actor.
That's not okay. That's how you got the bad culture.
No, that's playing with someone's confidence. No, that's uncool.
Yeah.
Uncool. Overrated.
So I've got. So here's something that we've done that's worked, right? Net positive reinforcement in that the first person that organizes that reports it ends up on a board, and you have a board that everyone can see on an Excel sheet or something, like a public Google Doc, and it's like, John reported 50 emails this month. Whoever reports the most emails, or is like the top 3 to report in the next week, they get like a gift card, right? Which is great. The problem that actually has happened, and I know people that have had this happen to them, is they've introduced this system where if you report phishing emails, you get more and more. So they started sending themselves phishing emails and then reporting them, and then they were astronomically higher reporting than everybody else. And then like, why does this one person only get this phishing email every week? Because no one else could report it, could they? Of course not. No one else got it. So that's one of the problems you've got to think about, I guess. But
True.
that's probably the only thing.
I think that's clever in a way. That's clever.
You get this
But
one employee
unethical.
reporting like 7,000 emails every week.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. He's getting a lot of phishing emails.
You must be really important.
Yeah. There's
He's pretty good at dodging them.
There's
He
a
dodges all
really
of them.
good talk on this from a couple of years back at the Swedish SecT conference, security conference here in Sweden, which talks about sort of like positive reinforcement of reporting security things, and it's basically on the broken windows theory. So you get them to report like small stuff, and then eventually if you get rid of all the small stuff, then you build that habit, and then they just keep on reporting stuff. And then if you report something like any form of security vulnerability, and security is something, then you get some candy from that guy, and then that's basically a whole talk for an hour. It's from Hugo Hirsch, I want to say. It's really, really good. It's on this topic, so it's really cool.
Is there really none left? I really want more of these overrated, underrated. I think it's a fantastic way to get people talk. Should we start that?
Yeah, true. I should do it like the other way around. But I usually, I don't really have a list when I start, and then as we go along, I'm like, this seems to be an interesting topic. Like, he doesn't seem to have a firm opinion on this thing, and I just add it to the list.
I have an idea.
Brilliant.
There's is it called straw poll? You can set up a straw poll and have the chat recommend questions to be asked.
Ooh, true.
And you could do that each week, and that would be a good way of getting retention. So all of you come back next week.
Yeah, next week we're gonna have a straw poll. I have no idea what that is.
17
I'm gonna Google
of
it after this.
17 of you have stayed with us for 2.5 hours.
That's
amazing.
Crazy.
So if there's anything from chat, if you want to bring up any form of overrated, underrated question or topic, please
Now
do
is
it.
the time.
Now is the time, and then we'll bring it up and have these two guys answer it. I'm gonna keep quiet if it's controversial, and then just have them answer it, just because I'm a coward. That's how I roll. I was gonna say something else. It sort of slipped my mind, I think. So while hopefully chat is just typing away,
They're trying to come up with some really nasty stuff for us now.
yeah. So Ben, like your tool sets for pen test versus red teams, are they similar or like do they differ a lot?
They differ a little bit. There are certain stuff I'd like do in red teaming that I would never do. I mean, if the goal of the red team is to set up alarm bells, my pen testing methodology is also way more inclusive. Like I'm looking for enumeration, so I'm scanning a lot more. I'm being a lot more active. Red team, I'm more looking for like a path, right? So I probably, if I did a red team, I wouldn't find the vulnerabilities. It's not the goal of it, right? If I did a pen test, my goal would be to find as much stuff. In pen tests, more black box pen tests, I find that I'm using more custom stuff, right? Like there might just be some damn defender I need to get by, or some thing I need to bypass. So I'll write up something custom, whereas it would be unrealistic to do that for a red team, right? There might be alert or like some some kind of payload that might not be realistic for a threat actor that we're emulating. So overall, they're fairly similar. Like in packet, I use all the time. CME, I use probably both ways. And map, obviously, always. Deerbuster, like I use like FFUF and things for content enumeration. I use that both. How much I'm doing it is a big difference, right? Like if I'm doing a pen test, I'm probably gonna run FFUF on most servers I find, right? Whereas if I'm doing a red team, I would just run it on the one that we're attacking. So tool set, yeah, I guess kind of different. We use Excel. I use an Excel spreadsheet in a red team, and I wouldn't in a pen test.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks. All right, so we got a question from chat from overrated or underrated. I'll let you two decide who goes first. So, C# tools hype. Overrated or underrated? I have no opinion on this, just so you know.
No, me neither. It was a long time since I used C#.
Who's that guest? Over or underrated? Underrated.
Oh, well.
We need more
Overrated. Sorry, what?
I think Pry is underrated. You should have him on more often, and I'm here the second time, so I'm just overrated. I can just disconnect and go now. So.
I'm here for the 11th time.
That was C# tools hype. I don't know. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I think
language
it's dead
is written
in. I think it's dead in the middle. I think. Sorry, I would talk over you.
No. It's. Feel free to interrupt me anytime you like. No, it's. I did some development in C#. I don't know, 10 years ago or something, perhaps even more. I don't know. I don't have an opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think they are. I think they can be underrated. There's some stuff in C# tools that I've never even seen before that do insane stuff and bypass a lot of VDR and like can be, or at least just normal things I've never seen before that I think are awesome. So I think they can be underrated a lot. I also think though that lots of the open source community are using them. A lot of red teamers are using C# stuff where it might not be used as much in real life scenarios, right? I mean, how much are you guys seeing like Sharp Loader run or Covenant used, right? Like how often is that?
What we see sometimes is actually obfuscated .NET code. So that could actually be C# code. It could be a C# tool. We do see that sometimes. When PowerShell is actually invoking just .NET, some .NET classes, and
Right.
Yep.
So is PowerShell overrated or underrated?
I think it's underrated.
Yeah, I think so as well. It can do so much stuff. So yeah,
it's.
I think it's underrated.
I think people have quoted, and I've said it too, that PowerShell is dead, but it's far from dead. You get a nice you get a nice AMSI bypass, and you get some stuff in memory, like down, you own it. You can do anything. PowerShell isn't. It's like Bash.
Yeah.
If you get Bash command injection, which is definitely underrated, you can do basically anything, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What about bug bounties? You're gonna piss off a lot of people, Ben. Just so you know.
Underrated or underrated how?
From a company standpoint, is it like should it get a pen test or bug bounty?
Oh, I think if you're a big company, I think if you don't have a bug bounty program, you're missing out. Does it come with noise? It comes with a lot of noise, but I do think you get an awful amount of coverage that you would never get otherwise. I would never, ever recommend a bug bounty program instead of a pen test. You're asking for trouble, especially if it's points only, or your bounties are low, or it's a private program because your coverage is going to be way less. And like, from a perspective of a tester, I don't do a lot of bug bounty purely because I don't, in my opinion, for me, I don't think it's a good deal for my time. I do it for fun. If I want to scan and play with some stuff, I think it's fun. But I'm not doing bug bounty for money. I think that I could make more money doing some other stuff for my time, and I could actually some actual extra overtime or something and actually get paid.
Yeah.
predictable money that I know I'm going to make. So that's my opinion from a tester. For learning, I think bug bounties are extremely amazing to learn. There's the Hacktivity and HackerOne, disclosure reports, right up to bug bounty. It's opened my mind for new ways I never even knew was possible. So underrated, I think bug bounty is underrated for pen testers. I think pen testers don't listen to the bug bounty community enough or learn from them enough. I think pen testers sit on their tower and say, I'm a pen tester and you're just a bug bounty tester, right? And I think bug bounty testers do the same. You're a pen tester. You can get in, it's easy. And I'm on, hardened targets. And there's this kind of fight. I think if we just stopped the hate and started loving more, I think we could do some stuff. And I've tried to learn a lot from bug bounty hunters, and I have more than a lot of pen testers. So knowledge, underrated. Money, overrated, underrated. Depends how good you are. You might be really good at making bounties, right? Some people are really good and they make a lot of money, millionaires. And then also from a company perspective, I also think it's probably underrated. I think you get a shit ton of noise, but you get an amount of coverage that you can't get anywhere else. Having 5,000 people looking at your servers motivated by money, scanning, running Nmap and FFUF. You're going to find some all sorts of weird stuff. And there's stuff found in Google, stuff found in Yahoo that would never have been found by pen testers. Yeah. It just requires you sat there looking at it for 8 months. That's my take. Both.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I agree with all of that. I think especially from a personal standpoint, if you want to get into pen testing, like if that's your end goal somehow, then bug bounty is an incredible way to sort of, as you say, just learn that stuff. And also if you're from a like a low income country, then some bug bounties can be huge, like massive.
Yep.
While if you're from like Sweden or the US, let's say, which then it might not be as has the same impact as it has if you're from India, perhaps.
A developed country.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like a big bug bounty. That's hard to say. That can change your life.
Right. I mean, if you get 15 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, you get 15 grand in America, and the average salary is 120 plus in California. Right. You get 15 for like a week's worth of work. Yeah. You do a week's worth of work in India. I don't know how much 15 grand. I mean, feed you for 2 years, 3 years, maybe. Right. Yeah. Potentially. So I think, and also the barrier of entry so low, like anyone can get into it, anyone can just start doing it. I think it's awesome, and the knowledge sharing is amazing. And also, it's not like a CTF where you're supposed to get in. If you get in on a bug bounty, then you are validated to some level of skill because you're looking at things other people haven't seen. And also, it's real world experience. If you get a bug bounty in Verizon and Yahoo and PayPal, and you can walk up to, you can walk up to a company and say, hey, look, I found vulnerabilities in Verizon, PayPal, and these companies. I can help you too. And another comment I've just seen, 15 grand if you're starting out can definitely help pay for your courses. Definitely. Yeah. I'm not saying that 15 grand is not a lot of money. I think it's a decent amount of money. But what I'm saying is if you're a consultant and you're already making a good salary in America, for you to be able to turn your time away from your loved ones or turn your time away for the night to do some bug bounty on the weekend, then, it's less of an incentive, like you said, than a low income country where it could change your life potentially and you could be rich. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're a student as well, I mean, in the US, I mean, to put you through college or whatever, it costs quite a lot, and this is just some extra on the side. So I think it could be good.
15 grand, that's like a month's rent in San Francisco or something. So yeah. No,
sorry,
I'm ranting. All right. Next, we got another question from chat from Recenter. So InfoSec Twitter, overrated or underrated? Overrated for me because it's so much drama, just all over the place.
Well, I think it depends who you're talking about. I'm not going to say anybody. I think a majority of the accounts that you can think of that constantly peddle drama, totally overrated. You don't find much more useful from their tweets than generic repeated things that you could read anywhere.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there is a handful of extremely smart people. I mean, not saying everyone with followers is bad. I mean, I have 20k, so I mean, I might be saying I'm terrible too. Maybe I'm overrated. Maybe I am. Chat, you can decide.
Well, you have more than me, so yeah.
You can have that for next. You can have that for The next week you say it's prior overrated or underrated. So infosec Twitter, I think a lot of the big names are a bit overrated. There are also a handful of people with 200 followers, maybe 50 followers, maybe 1,000 followers who don't post a lot, and they are incredibly underrated. So if you're talking about the popular people, probably 50%, 50%. But if you block and mute the right people, you know who they are. If you block and mute them and you follow the right people and you stay in your bubble, I think you can learn more from Twitter, or at least get tapped into news way faster than anybody, even threat intel feeds. POCs drop on Twitter. You see everyone talking about the new hack. There's a little bit of what everyone's talking about vibe through the grapevine that you get that you don't get through anywhere else. So I think Twitter is underrated, but I think it's also like fire. You have to use it correctly, and if you don't, it can burn your house down.
Yep, I agree. One of the best accounts, they actually stopped tweeting. It's @secure_Borat, and it's a photo of Borat. And they had some amazing tweets into infosec and actually security operations sometimes as well. One of my favorite was that server is down, phone is ringing, no one is answering, is server still down? So I mean, it's just it's just poetry, and it's awesome. So yeah, it's amazing. Let's see if I can find something else. It's one of my favorites. It's something with like propagating ransomware through the whole environment is not it's not development, it's DevOps or something like that. It's just making fun of the whole community, and yeah.
I think that one rings a bell, but I can't remember it.
Yeah, if I can find it, I will send you a link, Michael. It's hilarious. So yeah, I agree with Pry on the Twitter thing. You need to make sure that you follow the right people and stay out of certain topics.
And mute certain words as well.
I love the mute function in Twitter. When I found that one, I'm like, yeah, this is gold.
Oh, I'm gonna stay. To make error is human. To propagate error to all server in company is DevOps.
Sure.
There you go. Sorry, I messed it up before, but that's.
I think
that's
there's another question: is the customer CISO over or underrated?
I don't. Customer CISO. So like your
CISO customer, right? Like, are CISOs overrated or underrated? Do we need CISOs at all? Can we replace them with the technical people?
Can we replace them with a button? Do they still look alive?
Can we replace them with a team of smart technical people and let them run it, and rather than having someone to manage it with no technical experience? What do you think?
I mean, I think someone needs to be in charge. Someone needs to take like manager decisions.
Yep.
As long as they listen to technical people, and I've had a few cases where they don't. I've had a lot of cases where they do. But yeah, CISOs that think they are more technical than technical people are overrated, and vice versa. That's my take.
Nailed it. I really think that the key to being, I mean, I'm not a CISO, but I think the key to being a good CISO to the point where you make things more secure. I mean, I'm sure there are many CISOs that are really good at gain compliance, and that's maybe their job. I think if your goal as a CISO is to make your company more secure, I think the best CISOs I've seen are the ones that, one, assume that everything is broken and assume that they're doing it wrong from the get-go, even if they're not. If you might know something I don't, talk to people as if they enlist people as if they know something you don't constantly, and also people who listen to their technical advisors, listening to people in the trenches, right? They 9 times out of 10 are connected enough that they know what they're doing. They're in the trenches and they're talking to other people in the industry. Those people in the trenches will tell you what to do, and then you'll get a consultant, do a pen test, and they'll tell you exactly what they said.
I mean, you're spot on. I mean, talk to the networking people, the networking administrator and server administrator, and saying, do you sleep well at night? And if you don't sleep well at night, what are your biggest, what scares you the most? Can we fix it? So that's where you should start. And if you're doing that as a CISO, you're on the right position, I guess.
I think Ben mentioned a pet peeve that I have. It's like when you work in as internally at a company, and then you bring up stuff and like nothing happens. You bring it up, and then some consultant comes in, says the same thing that you've been saying for like 2 years. Like, whoa,
Yep.
really? We need to fix this. I'm like, yeah, no shit. I've been telling you this for
I've
like
been
2
telling you
years.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as a consultant says it, it's like it holds more value somehow.
Yeah.
Well, I've been on the other side of that too, where I've been a consultant and I've spoken to people in the trenches, and they've been like, "Please, please, can you talk about this in the report? This is just terrible."
Yeah.
And they don't listen to us. And I come in, I say, "Yeah, this is very bad." They go, oh, "Really? Right?" And it's like you could have just asked your technical guys, like,
Yeah.
just listen to them more. Your team is there to be used, and to be able to say, "Look, when a sister comes in and says, look, I don't know this stuff very well. I just know how to direct it." That's how it should be. They should leave the stuff to technical people, trust and know what they're doing, ask them for help, and say, look, I don't know how this works. Please help me, and being humble. I think being a humble CISO is important.
Yeah.
I think being as a leader, you have to be leaders eat last, right? I think something that Simon Sinek was talking about, where we are happy with a leader or CEO making more money than the average person, because we trust in the event of a problem, they are the first person to confront it. When there's danger in the camp, when there's problems, when there's a breach, they should be at the forefront of it, protecting their people. And that's why we're okay with a CISO making 200 grand a year or more as a executive, because in the event something happens, they should stand in front of their people. They should say, look, I got this. They should not blame anybody, not fire anybody. This is my responsibility. And that's why we trust leaders. And that's why we're happy with leaders to be, the forefront of it. And I think what we don't want is a bad leader as a CISO. It's the same for executives. It's the same for CTOs. Same for CFOs. They should be willing to take responsibility when it matters, and when things go to shit, they should be the ones saying, "Look, this is my fault. We're going to do something about it. I don't know how to attack it, but we've got a plan." Versus, this was the intern's fault. Solar wins, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good CISO who's willing to take responsibility when it matters, but is able to defer for help as well when they know they need it.
I agree. Like, take ownership of stuff that, maybe it's not even your shit. Just own it anyway.
Right. Exactly. That's why we have you, leaders.
Yeah.
Don't just let things go by. Right. I think that's the bigger problem, which extends further than just CISOs. It goes into leadership, period, and bosses, period, and it's a cultural thing. Same as a lot of security problems we have are cultural. It isn't technical problems 9 times out of 10. It's cultural, it's political, it's people. People are the problem. And I'm not saying people checking phishing emails, that's part of the problem. It's poor management, it's poor culture, it's the CISO not being able to get the budget that he needs to do the work he needs to do, because 60 grand, that's far too much money, right? We need to change that mentality. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, like, if I ever change jobs in the future, one of the first questions I'm gonna ask, like, my future employer is like, "Hey, do you know who Simon Sinek is?" If they say no, I'm like, "Nope, okay, that's it for me. Bye." Like, you need to have watched like 100 hours of his YouTube stuff if I'm gonna work for you.
Yeah, no, egg center, is that how you pronounce it? Totally right. A good system needs to be able to bridge the gap between management talk and budgets and technical talk and requirements. Absolutely. They're like a translator. And part of that means that they have to be humble enough to realize that they are not the technical department and that there are things that they don't know. And you can't really be a translator if you just hold the conversation. Right.
Yeah, and it's okay not to know. You're not supposed to know. Like, your role as a CISO is you're not supposed to know everything technical. That's why you have technical people.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think more people need to understand that it's okay not to know something. Like, you can't know everything, and that's okay. Just ask questions.
That's also culture, though, right? Because in some businesses, I don't know how that works. Oh, you must be a terrible CISO. People misunderstand the purpose of their role, even.
Yeah.
I actually witnessed a CISO say that a locked computer is unexploitable. And he said that with complete confidence in a call. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's a thing called poison tap. You can just, if you get traffic, you can, you can pull the memory. There's all sorts of stuff you can do if you have physical access to a locked box. And they were like, oh, really? And it's just being dogmatic enough to say, that can't be used is the wrong thinking. You have to be like, I assume that there's something you know that I don't.
Yeah.
And if you live your life like that, I think that you can learn a lot and be more careful, because you have to be constantly paranoid, right?
Yeah. I think David is smiling because he knows what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Bring it.
So, unnamed company that I was at.
Oh, come on. Okay.
Some time ago.
I didn't say so. Yeah.
It's a Mac shop, so they're using like 98% Macs. I wanted to POC an EDR, and I got that denied because Macs can't be hacked by the CISO. So yeah, we don't need any extra form of security at all, because Macs can't be hacked, and no internal vulnerability scanning was allowed because there's nothing vulnerable. So yeah, that's from the trenches.
Yeah,
Max
waiting
can't
for
hack.
an accident to happen.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and that's like within the last like 3 years. So
Yep.
Wow.
yeah, so
No.
I have to broaden the
Oh my
years,
God.
because if I specify the year,
Okay,
it's
I-
obvious which one it is. But yeah, that's pretty bad. So
Doesn't
yeah.
surprise me either. I mean, and that person will probably continue to be the CISO for the next foreseeable future until they get a breach, and then he'll run away. Oh no, I'm so sorry, and get a job somewhere else.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
probably wasn't his fault, so he just get a new job. And yeah.
It was the
Carries on.
intern's fault.
Exactly. Did you see that the what's the name of the pipeline that was hacked? What's
Colonial.
Yeah, they're job hunting for a new head of security. That's pretty fun. I wonder if the last one was fired,
Yeah.
or if it's just a coincidence that suddenly they need a new head of security. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they need a head of security.
Yeah, maybe they didn't have one.
Not necessarily a new one because they never had one. So. Yeah.
All right, so we've been going on for 2 hours and 45 minutes, and we still
I
have
think this
18
is a new
viewers.
record. Yeah.
Should we sort of wrap up, because it's been going on for almost 3 hours?
Let's
now.
wrap up. I
Let's-
think it's time. I think
let's
I should
do
get
that.
some work done.
Yeah. I'm gonna get some sleep because it's almost 11 p.m. here.
Yeah, I'm going to spend tomorrow in a workshop, so I should get some rest as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, first off, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. You guys were awesome. This was probably one of the best podcasts I've been on.
Yeah, it was
I
amazing.
think the only one.
Which makes it also the worst one. So thanks. No, but it's been awesome. It's insane that people are still actually gained a view just now, which is crazy. So yeah, thanks to everyone for watching, for being interactive in chat. It's been really, really fun, and thanks
Yeah, it's super good.
Ben and David for joining me.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, my gratitude towards the chat that kept this going for a very long while. It's super fun to see all of you there. Thank you so much.
Right. Thanks, guys. And well, until next time, I'm gonna force you guys to be on again eventually, sometime in the future, just so you know.
Sure. Yeah, no worries.
And also, just a few shout outs.
Do it.
Shout out to Octavian. You're a legend. I love you. Shout out to Crimber Jackson, if you're watching this. He's always my hype man. Victoni, you're a legend if you're still here. Everyone in the chat, you are fucking awesome. And Joan Red Team, you know who you are. You've helped me a lot this week. So thank you.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
See you around. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Inside security.